Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, the scariest thing about AEW's Fright Night was the ratings. Braun Strowman is eating well in unemployment, and SmackDown proves less is more or less. And joining me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He's the 2025 competitive eating champion, French Toast Division, the great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. We just got French toast the other day. My son is starting to like it. This is one of the big moments in parenthood for me. But it's a pleasure to be here. We have a great show, a lot of big topics, a lot of big things happening. Such a happening.
Is Big your your version of Tony's Great?
It's
now?
my great.
A lot of big things. Big.
It's my great. Big is my great. Hold on, let me do it right. Big is my great. There we go.
Well, ring a ding dong dandy. And I'm glad your children are now being introduced to the French variety of the toast. That's heartwarming to hear.
All right. Well, this is the earliest I've ever hit you with. It's your show.
Well, there you know, I don't want to start laughing too much here. I got to do something at the start of the program. I got to recognize somebody. I think about a year ago, some of the listeners may remember I wished well to a young lady, 3 months younger than me, so young lady out in White Plains, Kentucky, named Melody, who was a old-time Memphis wrestling fan from the days of the Evansville Coliseum on Wednesday nights and Madisonville, Kentucky, first Saturday of the month that nobody came to. She was having some health issues, and what she had was cancer. And I got the news from her sister, Pam, this past week that she passed away on October 24th.
Oh, no.
And, again, I didn't think I was going to. When I say it out loud, it's worse. But the thing is, I mentioned my mother thought a lot of her. She was friends. She used to come up after I'd already gotten to business and moved away. She'd drive up every now and then, or if she happened to have to be in Louisville. She didn't have to be in Louisville. She just came up on purpose to see my mom. And what I hate about this is, again, it reminds me of when normal people, Brian, were wrestling fans. And I'm not saying that all the wrestling fans these days in our audience, that they're just all weird, although AEW does brag about theirs. But no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the fans then, the 70s, the 80s, they were normal people in that they watched the TV show for an hour on weekends, Saturday morning, whatever the case, and they went to the matches 3 hours on Wednesday night or Tuesday night or Saturday night, not only to see the show, but also as their social evening out to see all their friends. We've talked about it. How that, everybody knew the ringsiders and they all visited. And, well, there's Mrs. Zimmerman. Well, there's old Pat over there, blah, blah, blah. But otherwise, they didn't know every wrestler in the world. They didn't know what was going on in the AWA or in Florida, except if they happened to take a vacation and see a newspaper ad, is how they found out. They didn't follow everything to where nobody came out as a goddamn surprise back then. You advertised people, but you had to get over new talent, new in front of a new audience, because they didn't keep up with the world of wrestling. There was no way for them to do it, and there wasn't any time because they had normal jobs. And it wasn't a goddamn financial class situation. You had doctors and lawyers, and you had a lot of people who worked at the store or down the street at the gas station or was a fucking clerk somewhere, whatever. But they didn't know the word booker, much less know what the fucking booker did. They knew something was going on, many of them. but they didn't know what or how. And then since there was no way to find out, they didn't bother to dwell on it. And there were people of all ages because it was accessible to people of all ages and all income levels. And, I said the teenage girls, they were rock stars, the boys to the teenage girls. They wanted to come to get with the wrestlers, and the boys wanted to come to get with the girls that were coming to get with the wrestlers. And the married couple came because they might have met at the matches, and they bring the kids because it's cheaper than babysitting. And the old people, been there 40 years, could tell you what Luthez' fucking first match was. And the promoters weren't trying to gouge people out of every goddamn dollar because they needed them to come back every week for the next 20 years. And because it was so mainstream and so accessible, many people around town, wherever you lived, I'm coming back to Melody, you would have friends that were watching the TV show or going to go to the matches. And with Melody White Plains, I don't think there's 1,000 people in it yet. I bet you not. So it's a little town in Kentucky, but it's over toward the Evansville, Indiana end. And, 40 years ago, however many people were there then, but sometimes her sister would drive her up on Wednesday nights as often as she could come. And Madisonville, as I mentioned, was a regular spot show that didn't draw. So my mom would be sitting there at the gimmick table. Melody would sit and visit with her half the show. Because it was not only coming to see the guys in person that were in your territory, that you saw on TV, that you knew who they were, but it was also just coming to visit people. And Melody was a nice girl and didn't mess around with any of the boys or whatever. But there was tons of fans like that just needed to get away for a little while from their normal everyday routine instead of goddamn worrying about who the GLEAT World Junior Featherweight Champion is in Osaka. Do you see what I'm saying, Brian?
Who is that champion, Jim?
I have no fucking idea.
And what can Mercedes Moné do to get that belt? No, I see exactly what you're saying. It's one of the things missing from mainstream wrestling, well, especially WWE right now with the ticket prices and just everything else, their schedule. It's one of the things that the indies, as small as they may be, have that you don't really see anymore, which is a community around the show. An ecosystem of regular fans, regular people. You don't get that anymore. I know it's not the biggest thing in the world, but they're not running the Garden, their normal annual December Christmas spectacular. It may not be on Christmas, but it's an annual thing.
Right, the day after Christmas, usually.
They're not doing it this year, and it shouldn't matter in the general scheme of things, but there are fans who are like, they've taken that away from me now. One of the few things I was already spending money on, not only did they not just not do it, but if they did do it, they would have raised the prices. It's a different animal with WWE because it literally is like old Hollywood. Watch the stars, see the stars, and then go home.
Yeah.
But it used to be you could linger around, talk to people, meet people. How many listeners out there have friends who they met at wrestling? Just another person standing around, you start talking, and, a lot of times in life, not at a wrestling event, if you meet someone and they could talk wrestling with you, you kind of stay in that conversation as long as you can. You kind of want to talk to that person. Because there's plenty of people in our lives that hate wrestling, dismiss wrestling, make fun of wrestling, whatever it is.
Well, and also, first of all, you mentioned earlier mainstream wrestling. Wrestling actually isn't mainstream anymore.
Well, you know what I mean.
But the point I'm going to make is when wrestling was mainstream, when a good percentage of people in your hometown were casual fans. They watched the TV show. If they didn't go to the matches every week or whatever, they watched the TV. They knew who the people were. And in a town like Memphis, where you stood pretty much a 1 in 3 chance at most, if not 1 in 2, of talking to somebody who watched Memphis wrestling. In Charlotte, it was a little bit greater than that. But again, back to Melody in White Plains, her sister Pam mentioned she had several of her old friends over the week before she went in the hospital. And they talked about the old days of, going to the wrestling matches and or watching the TV show together. And that may have been, if there was 5 more people in town, that was fucking 50% of the population of every one of these little towns. But they went about their routines of their jobs or their family or their lives. They didn't have to dwell on who every wrestler in the world was, because if they were ever going to see him in person, the TV show they watched for 1 hour on Saturday would fucking tell them. And it was just, that's why that there were a lot more fans then. Not only because of the performances, as we've talked about, and the presentation of the whole business then versus now, but because I don't know how people have time to keep up with this shit now. We barely do, and this is our job. So it just, that reminded me, but nevertheless.
And it's funny too, because if you ever look at the people that get like the most upset, like the ones who you could tell probably are not listeners. Sometimes you hear from listeners that are complaining about something. You're like, I could tell this person's listening. But people who just don't like the complaints or anything, it tends to be the person who has to, based on how much there is, dedicate so much of their life every week to wrestling, to watching things, to reading about things, to writing about things, whatever it may be. It's not the fan who watches it and moves on with their day. It's the fan who watches it and then immediately turns on the New Japan show and then is getting ready for the CMLL show. Like, they're going to stream everything and watch everything. They're really dedicated to that. They like everything. Those are the ones who generally have the biggest problem if you complain about anything, because you're taking something from them almost.
I was one of the biggest wrestling nuts in the world. And I've mentioned at the same time that Melody and I would speak at the matches. I knew what was going on in the AWA. I knew what was going on everywhere, because I was that one of the small number of those people. But at the same point, if I had been able to see just the sheer hours of coverage of everything that is available today, I don't know. Number one, I don't think I could have. And number two, it would all have blurred, because it's so similar. Everything is so similar. And at least at that period of time, we've talked about this, was getting tapes from different territories and etc. Not only were the rosters different, the presentation was different in terms of the announcer, the location of the show, the look, whatever the case, the style of the angles. And they still had the pro wrestling logic. But I don't know if, as nerdy of a super fan as I was then, if I could take, well, I wouldn't be a fan at all of watching what is presented today. But if I had this many hours of the shit that was presented then, I don't think I could have fucking stood it. You see what I'm saying to you, boy?
Yeah, and that's also why it was such a big deal, and how it would build up anticipation in someone when you saw the 1 hour of wrestling that aired every week, which included, I mean, depending on where you were, let's say at least 6 minutes, maybe too much, 5 minutes of promos just for you. Just to tell you what you're going to see at the arena this week or next week. You couldn't wait to go see it. You couldn't wait to go see. I mean, there were matches when I was a kid I couldn't wait to go see that. On its face, they would be horrible matches. They built me up into it. I couldn't wait to see it. You don't get that anymore. I mean, it goes to that conversation we had about the changes in promos and format, everything else. But, again, the community around a lot of these shows, it may be there for indies. but it's not really there for WWE right now.
Well, and the problem is the indies don't have the type of product that's going to draw thousands of people per week in a given city
No.
over and over, and therefore that goes back to the problem of wrestling not really being mainstream anymore. The WWE is mainstream wrestling, but wrestling of any kind isn't really mainstream anymore as it once was.
And again, the indies are a small example of what would have happened in the territories, but if you go to an indie show and let's say it draws 400 people, let's say it's a really good indie show, maybe there's 5 people there, maybe 10, somewhere in that range, who are always there. They come to every show. They get to know the wrestlers. Sometimes they bring a friend. You never know. WWE now, if you're one of those fans, you're a fan spending 6 figures to travel around with them, and they'll let you do some stuff. They'll give you some perks, which you'll pay for. And then you'll get to go pay for your pictures and everything else that you'll do. It's a money grab there. For the indies, it's almost like going to a rock club and seeing like a band, seeing just bands, like not bands that are famous, just bands. It's the people around that. It's going to comedy. That's the way it is for smaller shows, but WWE doesn't have what you guys had in Louisville, which is a community around the show.
Yeah. And but anyway, back to community. I wanted to recognize Melody. I was sorry, and to here's the kicker. I knew she would be interested in my new book, and therefore she was one of the people in the first round of stuff before orders that as soon as we got the book, I gave to Hotchkiss to send out, and the book got there the day that she passed away. So she never got a chance to see it. But I wanted to recognize her, and just, again, my mother thought a lot of her. She thought a lot of my mom, and we've exchanged cards and notes between us over the last year or so since she's been sick. But I wanted to mention that, and it brought up the subject of when there was a lot of wrestling fans, because it was easy for everybody to get into. That is what made wrestling popular around the country, and I fear that we've lost all of that. Nevertheless, on a more positive note, Brian, I'll have you know that I did something yesterday as we sit here, Halloween Day. This is the following day that we're recording this. So on Halloween, I did something I haven't done in a long time. Would you like to know what that is? You already know. You're going to cheat because I've already told you. But I'll tell everybody else. I took the day off, which I have not done in a while. And I know people that have ordered books are going, God damn you. But as many people know, it's mine and Stacy's anniversary on Halloween. And so I took the day off, and we watched Turner Classic Movies with all the Universal classic horror creatures, horror characters during the day, and relaxed. And we were going to have a Halloween Eve and a Halloween night dinner, and she got screwed on hers because the night before Halloween, she said, hey, I just saw the sign out at the mall, St. Matthews. There's a Texas de Brazil. Brian, are you familiar with this establishment?
I've never heard of that specific one. Is that like one of those Brazilian meat houses?
No, I think you're thinking of that. They have that kind of thing down in Rio de Janeiro, those meat houses.
And Queens.
But you don't want to go there, but you're talking about a Brazilian steakhouse is what you're talking about.
Those are the words I was thinking of.
They're the churrascaria, or whatever the fuck is the
meat house.
The technical term. Again, going back to the meat house. Look, do they give you a steam first, a little rub down? But anyway, she saw the sign. It's out. Let's go. That's what she picked. And then what I picked was, I love the G&M crab cakes from G&M restaurant in Maryland. And she mail ordered some of those, and I got the bacon wrapped fillets, and I made us our anniversary dinner. However, I mentioned she got jacked out of hers because when we went to look up reservations required, what just some information on this thing, they've got the sign up, but the goddamn restaurant's not open yet.
Oh, that sucks.
It's actually in the mall. They put the sign on the side of the thing, but it's just coming soon. They don't even have a phone number yet. Which we had intended to go there for like 2 weeks before we found out that information the day beforehand. But nevertheless, so she's got a rain date to go to Texas de Brazil. But yes, I hate to just sit around, Brian, and not be as productive as normal, but I had a nice time with us just lolling around watching television. And she got me the nice cards, and I got her the nice flowers, and we had the nice food. And then we made the one decision that I'm not sure yet whether we've decided was positive or not. Have you heard about the new Netflix show Ed Gein? The monster Ed Gein. Have you heard about this?
I have heard a little bit about it. I've not seen any of it.
I've seen 2 of them now. I went to sleep, nodded off on a second one partway through, and then woke up at the finish because she heard me snoring. She's like, hey, I don't know whether I like it or not because I like the story. And I like the guy that's playing him is a spooky, eerie son of a bitch, right? And he's giving him a voice where he kind of talks like this. It's just like, and then he takes an axe and fucking chops somebody in the fucking head. But it's all over the place. There's flashbacks, and they brought Alfred Hitchcock into it because Ed Gein, for anybody who's wondering why, who had lampshades and things made of skin in his house and who had committed these murders in Wisconsin, was the basis for the story Psycho with Norman Bates and his mother, because Ed Gein had dug up his mother's body and a blah, blah, blah. You can read it on the internet. But the guy playing Alfred I'm fatter now than the guy playing Alfred Hitchcock. He's like pushing his cheeks out against his neck to try to fucking look fat. And there's all these, and then Anthony Perkins is in a subplot flashback with a gay lover while he's auditioning for a skinny Alfred Hitchcock who's meeting with goddamn Robert Bloch, right? Wrote the screenplay for Psycho. But at the same time, the girlfriend that Ed Gein allegedly has that he never really had, or they're doing things that he never really did with this bitch of Buchenwald book about the Nazi. It's very complicated. Do you see what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, it sounds very complicated. I have no interest in seeing this based on anything you've said so far.
And he didn't really, they don't know that he killed his brother, for sure. His brother died under suspicious circumstances, but in this show, he just clocked him right over the head with a goddamn stump. And and left him in the barn for a week, so there's no doubt. So I think they're taking liberties on Ed Gein. It's like the Hulk Hogan principle. The true story seems like it'd be enough, right? Without having to go all over. They're trying to be artsy. They're going for some kind of award or certificate of honor. I recommend it highly. Yeah, sit down and watch all 8 shows. We got through 2. I don't know whether we'll come, but maybe is there highlights on YouTube of these shows where they just show you the Ed Gein parts and leave out the subplots?
Hopefully that's not the only thing you watched on your head. Hopefully you watched something you actually liked.
Well, we had done the Universal horror thing through the day, but we waited till it got dark and thought we could curdle up and watch a new spooky show that we hadn't seen, and it was confusing. It was confusifying.
Do you ever do Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein when you do the Universal horror thing?
I think it's on Svengoolie this weekend.
Is it
tonight.
This weekend? Oh, no shit.
I think it's tonight.
Oh, as we are recording, of course. Oh, no way.
Well, but yes.
Fuck.
Not out as they're out there. Here, why? You have a
tonight
conflict?
sucks now, because that's something I would love to watch, and I'd love to watch it with the kids. I used to watch it with my dad. That's just such a classic movie, and it may be the best appearance in some cases of some of those monsters. But I have Game 7 of the World Series, been a great World Series, and Saturday night's main event, which we have to turn around and record about.
Well, Saturday night's main event's going to be on the cock. You can watch that later.
If anything good happens, they'll edit it out. If anything crazy happens, they'll edit. But nothing crazy is going to happen unless Jesse Ventura, just says some wacky shit.
Do you think Jesse will even be there?
That's a good question. They haven't announced him or anything, right?
I think they've shied away from that the last few shows. But well, I hate it that you have such a programming conundrum. I would watch Svengoolie live with the kids, and then watch the baseball game without anybody speaking to you. And then tomorrow, watch the Saturday night's main event.
See, the problem is I hate watching baseball after the fact. That's a case where I'll just watch highlights. To watch a game and get into every moment and really feel it, you got to watch it live.
Why? It's new to you. You don't know what's going to happen.
It's Game 7 of the World Series. As soon as there's a finish, it's going to get out. It's going to be everywhere.
I got news for you. About 7:00 at night comes, and unless something happened that was loud enough or shook the earth outside my fucking place of residence here, I would not know what the fuck was going on until I decided to check in the next day. So you're doing it wrong. You mean to tell me that if I can sometimes go 2 days without, especially if Stace might be on, formerly when she would visit her folks or whatever, and there was absolutely no, because she would be the only person that would be able to let me know that goddamn, new pope had been elected or whatever in the outside world. I don't check in that often.
What are your thoughts on the Sven Squad? They've been doing that all for October, where there's a second Svengoolie, but he's only like a cameo appearance.
What's that? It's the House of Svengoolie.
House of Svengoolie, that's what it is.
Yes, because the House of Frankenstein was such a gathering of all of the characters. I thought Gwen Goolie's quite pleasing.
She's good too. She's
quite energetic. She's very peppy.
Yeah, she's actually very good in that role, I think.
She's happy and peppy and bursting with zip. And I'm not sold on the little peanut-headed character yet.
Yeah, that's the worst one. See, at least nostalgia for Ratu. You're like, that's the same guy from Tune In With Me. So obviously, at least he's creative. At least he's trying to do something. And he has good punchlines. The imp or whatever it is, I'm not into that.
Yeah, when he's I want to say Montel Vontavious Porter. I don't think that's.
I don't think so.
That's yes, he's some anagram, but it's obviously not MVP anyway.
Hey, can I ask you about something just as a follow-up to a conversation we previously had?
Well, quit following me.
In the section of the show here, the Crown News, what are your thoughts on Prince Andrew now not allowed to be a prince? He has a new name. They actually put out a press release. Buckingham Palace put out a press release to announce his new gimmick. He's been stripped of his IP because he left the territory. He can't take the gimmick that he was handed. He can't take it with him.
He can't take it with him. He is. What is now that he's supposed to call himself something in particular? Do you have that in front of you?
Let me pull it up here. Because it was obviously.
But before we were joking, is he just going to be Andrew? And apparently Fergie was highly pissed, and they kicked him out of the house. And he's got to live somewhere else, and they were about to take that out from under him if he didn't fucking toe the line.
Well, Jim, I have the statement here from Buckingham Palace. His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew.
To remove the style? How do you take somebody's style away? What are you going to make him wear baggy clothing?
This is like Razor Ramon leaving WWF. He couldn't have a toothpick. Everything was somehow, the IP of WWF's.
Some bitch not allowed to wear a crown anymore.
And the title. They've taken the title off him. That's a drastic move for the promotion. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. What a gimmick change. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. And that is the end of the statement. So he's no longer Prince Andrew. He's now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
So
like a serial killer, they've given him a middle name now.
That's like the middle name of every serial killer in the United States is Wayne. Like John Wayne Gacy.
That's right.
But over there, it's going to be Mountbatten. It's fucking Chauncey Mountbatten fucking Froghorn. So he denies everything but his own family. The royal family of England, who has not always been noted through history for being the most forthcoming about exposing their own private problems in public, has kicked him out of the goddamn house. That would indicate that they probably believe that he could not win a jury trial over this, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think he's in a lot of trouble. I mean, this is crazy. Again, imagine if, Vince McMahon showed up at your house and said, you have to get out of my house immediately, and you're not allowed to call yourself that name ever again, and don't use your style or your title or anything else. But I have another article here. Again, these kind of articles may be why this is happening, from the New York Post. The article, disgraced ex-Prince Andrew had 40 prostitutes brought to Thailand hotel.
What?
On taxpayer-funded trip, biographer says.
Wait, okay, there's so many things. Just all in one sentence there.
That's the headline, yeah.
And we've established the part about why he's the disgraced ex-prince, but 40 prostitutes brought to a hotel in where was it? In
Thailand. That's where Kevin Von Erich was selling one-way tickets a few years ago. Remember that commercial?
Quit now. Don't link Kevin with any of this. But look at here.
Yeah.
I can understand, first of all, that if you're a rich and powerful person, you can do some things that you could probably get away with because you could either pay people to not talk about it, or you can afford to do it out of the public eye. How do you cover up having 40 prostitutes brought anywhere to do anything with him? Or were there other people involved? And if so, you've got a fucking human circle of 100 people or more. Then how the fuck does he think he's a fucking prince? That's not going to get out. So what was there details on this?
There are some details here. I guess this is from an interview that was done on the Deep Dive, the Fall of the House of York podcast with royal historian and author Andrew Lowney. And his quote was, "There was a famous trip to Thailand for the birthday celebrations of the king. Andrew is representing his country and insists on staying in a 5-star hotel rather than the embassy, which he always did. Andrew had 40 prostitutes brought in the space of 4 days. This was all enabled by diplomats and others." And Lowney
Okay,
has...
no, hold on. What year was this? Was there a date on this?
Yeah, because, there's more details. In 2001, Andrew's 41. He's having his midlife crisis, and he basically starts chasing lots and lots of women. He uses the excuse of his role as trade envoy, paid by the taxpayer, to go on these trips. He always puts in 2 weeks of private time. So we pay for his holiday, and then he goes off and does things. Andrew was sending a list of people he wanted to meet for his own personal business interests. That's not prostitutes. That's business. So...
But this guy, so this was 20 years ago or whatever, a little more, but this guy is, how old is he? He was 41. They say, so he's 41 years, but...
He was 41 in 2001.
Okay, yeah, well, yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. He was 41 years old is what I'm driving at. So it's not the old decrepit son of a bitch that we're looking at today that got 40 hookers, but at the same time, a 40-year-old man or any man, 40 prostitutes in 4 days. Was he just having them brought in to window shop? Because you can't tell me.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe he likes like having a selection. Like not everyone gets picked, but he just has them like, do contests. Like some kind of obstacle course or something, and the winner gets to him.
Yeah, something involving pudding. They're big on pudding over there. They make pudding out of everything. And no wonder his family is kicking him out of the fucking house.
And this is one story. It's not even the most salacious. It's not even about everything that has come out or will come out about Jeffrey Epstein and him and different women and him from that. You could understand why Prince Charles, who has never really seemed like a loose guy, you can understand why I shouldn't say Prince Charles, King Charles. You can understand why King Charles and his kid, Prince William, would be like, I don't want this guy anywhere near us. I don't even want him to be able to say he's a member of the family of the kingdom.
Imagine when those miserable and insufferable fucking douchebags don't want you anywhere near the goddamn family. You can only imagine.
It is like, I don't know, Arthur or something. Just the idea that like the family has this one fucking wild, unhinged lunatic who, again, thought he can get away with all this forever. I'll just do this. I'm Prince Andrew. Who could stop me? Send me 40 hookers, please. It's my twisted Alibaba. Send me 40 hookers.
You know that he is goddamn, he's thinking this motherfucking brother of mine is the king. And I'm over here having to move out to alternative private accommodations. Oh, that's got to eat him up.
And he's living with his ex-wife, which that alone can't be an easy situation.
I just saw Fergie you're talking about.
Yes.
Remember, I said, oh, Fergie. I remember Fergie. Oh, yeah. That was 40 years ago. Ooh. Fergie looks like she's fermented. At this point, I did the wrinkles. If she was wearing long earrings, she looked like Venetian blinds. No, so I take back what I'd said earlier. Well, I was remembering the Fergie of days gone by. And those days have certainly gone by.
What kind of job can this guy get? He's going to have to do something, right? Well, I guess they're going to still let him live. Like they're going to still pay his.
Oh God. I bet bills. By the time that he could just sell the goddamn silverware he's taken out of the castle and put in his fucking second apartment somewhere, he could probably live for the rest of his life. I don't think we need to worry about him going to work to become a clerk at Boots. See, I've been over there. I know what these fucking little local fucking phrases are.
He should run for prime minister.
I would assume that with the average population of the United Kingdom, that he's about as popular as Crotch Rot. Would I right? He's not like some kind of populist hero that they're doing wrong. He's a gadabout.
That's why a lot of people think all this is happening right now. It's Prince Charles, again, I did it again, but it's King Charles saying enough of this. It's all coming out. More is going to come out. They know what he's already like. But, yeah, that's the story of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, What a sad tale. The prince who lost his crown, kicked out of the house.
He needs to write a children's book. The prince who lost his crown. Brian, now I'm just fuck it. It just popped into my head. The big problem I got now, the big worry I've got for him is that he's been kicked out of the royal residence. He don't know where his next fucking 40 hookers are coming from. Where's he going to sleep? Is he homeless? Is he going to be out in Hyde Park? Where is he going to be sleeping? And what's he going to be sleeping on? Who's he going to be sleeping next to? And what are they going to be sleeping on? Because, he could sleep on Fergie, but it's the same point. She looks like she's bony as well as lumpy. And then there's some parts of her are fat and some parts of her look kind of bony and lumpy.
You could say that nice. She looks bony and Frank Bank.
Well, there you go. So you might have to fluff her all night long. So I'm just wondering, you mentioned he's not going to be able to get a job. I don't think he's going to be hurting for money, but do they have Helix Sleep mattresses over there in the United Kingdom available to people without royal titles? Because you sleep like a king on one over here in the U.S. So do you have to be a member of the royal family to get a Helix mattress in the United Kingdom? That's my question.
I don't know. It's a very interesting question. We should certainly focus on the people who aren't derelicts here in the United States who need a good mattress, a good place to sleep. Whether you are bony or lumpy, Helix Sleep has the mattress for you.
Well, and we don't want you derelicts now to listen to this, because if you are completely derelict of any money or credit or any way to pay for this shit, well, fuck you. But I'll tell you what, it's a dereliction of your duty. If you're not passing the word, folks, about the Helix Sleep mattresses that help everybody sleep better and feel better, and including you, if you're one of the few listeners out there in the Cult of Cornette audience that have not already availed yourself of the opportunity to sleep like you're sleeping in the arms of the angels with the best darn mattress that will ever be delivered to your door, well, then you need to start. And that's, we've been saying it all along. If you're sweating at night, well, if you're on the run from the law, we can't really do anything about that. You're going to have some sleepless, sweaty nights. But if you're otherwise unencumbered by any legal issues, you don't have anybody trying to hunt you down and climb in your window, you're just sweating like a fucking pig all night long, they got a mattress that'll cool you down. If you got back pain, they've got a mattress that will ease that in whatever fashion it needs to be eased. You got to go on the helixsleep.com website and take the little quiz about which positions you'd like to get comfortable in. I understand reverse cowgirl position is made it up to number 3.
Regular sleeping positions we're talking about specifically here. Regular sleeping positions.
Yes, well, people sleep in a variety of ways, and who are we to judge? And they've got the small. They've got the soft, the medium, the firm, the extra firm, all that stuff. But they got ones for the kids. They got the mattress for old people that doubles as a body bag for the crematorium.
No,
folks, if you
ladies and gentlemen, you hear that funky sound, and what that means is we got a great deal for you. Of course, we love Helix Sleep. Yes. I have several Helix Sleep mattresses here in the house. Hey, Jim, look at the little bird. I have several mattresses here in the house. Of course, a Castle Cornette, very popular. We're both looking forward to getting new Helix mattresses.
Yes, soon. As a matter of fact, we went ahead and ordered about 4 more. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put a sign down on the highway, mattresses for rent. If for travelers that want to come in, and we put them all lined up side by side down in the bar in the basement.
No.
And what we're going to do is we're just going to have people come in and rent those for 3 hours at a time. So it's a money-making opportunity as well.
Again, we could all have fun and games, tell jokes. We should also remember we live in residential districts and be very careful. But Jim, What we really
I'm
want to
back
talk
in the
about,
woods. Nobody knows anything about
what
this.
we really want to talk
Matter
about.
of fact, that's one of the questions we ask people when they come in. Do you have any family or close friends that would be wondering where you are in the next year or so? And they check the appropriate box. But right now, you can check the appropriate box by going to helixsleep.com, HELIX, I'll have you know, sleep.com/JCE, and you're going to get 27% off site-wide. 27 by gum percent off of anything they got on the site. And you know what? Once again, some of these items can be used for different purposes. So if you order 8 or 10 mattresses, well, that's a good way to just line the back of yard in case of a house fire. You can jump out of a top window and your entire backyard is covered with these Helix mattresses. You'll just bounce right up. So while you can get them 27% off, I'd say go for 10 of them at least. helixsleep.com/JCE is the code to get the discount of 27% off aforesaid mattresses. Brian, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Inoki.
Great mattresses. Again, we love them here at this house, and we're pretty sure that you'll love them too. Check them out. Helix Sleep. Once again,
pretty sure. You're not convinced?
Well, I mean, I would think so. There's some lunatics out there. You never know. But what we do know is helixsleep.com/JCE.
Well, anybody didn't like one of these, I would have to take them to court on that for some kind of slander, malicious prosecution of some description.
All right.
Anyhow, back to what I was saying. Do you know? Hold on here. I got to get the name. Do you know what Eric from Maryland sent me in the mail that I went to the post office box and it jumped right out at me just a couple of days ago, and I could not believe it. Guess what he sent me?
I don't know.
An autographed picture of Adrienne Barbeau.
Ah, ooh la la.
To me, to Jim, and pictures of her signing the picture at a horror movie convention that he had gone to where she was appearing. He's met her a couple of different times, and he came up to her and started the conversation by mentioning or asking about her days as Miss Wrestling for Roy Shire in San Francisco.
Same thing I would do. That's awesome.
That we had just been talking about here on the program a few months ago, whatever it was. Look it up on the YouTube channel, folks. And she popped because apparently from what she told Eric, that is the first time that in all of these, she's never done a wrestling convention. Why would she, right? But of all the horror movie conventions and fan fests of that Chiller Theater, whatever of that type, nobody has ever asked her about being Miss Wrestling. So she signed it to Jim, best whatever the fuck, Adrienne Barbeau, Miss Wrestling.
Oh, that's so cool.
And she told him it was her first job. She had just become a model, and her mother actually drove her to the TV studio to do the TV shows.
Did she say anything about Roy Shire, his language, his spitting, just his behavior, anything?
He didn't. If she had of, he would have mentioned it because he wrote me a letter along with this, and she must not have because he didn't. But she chuckled, she popped about it. You know, she was like, "Oh yeah,
yeah." She's always seemed cool, and you could almost imagine, you know, she would say that Roy Shire was a filthy, filthy man. But I guess they didn't want to bring up any horror creatures like that at the creature feature convention. She was in Swamp Thing, Escape from New York. She was in a bunch of cool things.
Yes. Well, she married John Carpenter, remember?
Yeah.
Yes. So The Fog, all those days, she was in a fog while she was married to John Carpenter. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, so thank you, Miss Wrestling. If you're listening to our show for the autograph picture, and Eric, you will be getting eventually a copy in return of my new book, Heroes and Friends, which brings me, Brian, to mention very briefly before we go any further, that it has been a complete success. We officially sold out of the first print run. We're having more done. Nobody will notice an interruption in service, as they say, because it is going to take me a while to sign the remaining backlog of books. Now, however, the good news is, by the time the folks hear this, everything, all the orders, anything you ordered from the first days on sale, October 11th, will have been handed to Hotchkiss and either sent or is about to be sent. It's going to label whatever the case. That was almost 1,000 individual orders. Plus, because of Hotchkiss's super computerized space age technology, he has been able to pull out, if you've just ordered like a t-shirt and you just wandered in trying to get a t-shirt, got in the middle of this onslaught, there's no reason for you to wait 2 months. If you ordered anything that I don't need to autographs, like a t-shirt or the Wrestling in the Garden book by Scott Teal, just individually, some people just got that. He's already pulled that out. Your stuff is on the way. We've pulled out, if you ordered a book and t-shirt or a book and DVD, boom, that stuff has been handed off to him. And now I've got a big old stack of books to sign. But if you want it by Christmas, don't worry about the reprinting. Worry about my carpal tunnel syndrome and tendonitis. JimCornette.com. But that is a good point. If you just want a t-shirt or even the tag team action figure sets and Midnight Express 4-pack that just requires an autographed picture from me, he's putting those things together while I'm signing books. So if you want something non-book related, you will not have to wait so long. But we're making good progress, Brian. And hopefully these wonderful, wonderful reviews will keep coming for a whole nother print run.
Yeah, we've been overwhelmed. Cult of Cornette Facebook group, just people loving the book, so happy they've received it. So I think you've made a lot of people happy, and there's still a lot of people probably that aren't going to receive it, because even if they've gotten it, their wife purchased it for them or someone, so it's going to be a Christmas gift. They have a month to wait until they get the gift.
Well, fortunately, there's not like it's spoilers, like, oh, he reveals who killed Kennedy or whatever. So, you can read the reviews of it and it won't spoil anything. And which I have to do, because I got to take a break from signing books to go read the reviews on the Cult of Cornette Facebook group of my book. And I appreciate everybody and I'll be interacting at some point with that, whenever. And I got to have Stacy show me how to get on there also. But do you know, Brian, switching gears here before we go to the programming again, that we got a bunch of smartasses listening to our program? Were you aware of this?
I'm shocked.
I'm talking smart, and they are a smart-ass son of a bitch is what they are. Do you want to hear this email I got from David in, I don't know, well, wait, he doesn't mention where he's from. Wait a minute, because it's one of those .edu email addresses. That's from an institution of higher learning and knowledge. UICEDU is one of these things. Do you know what that's code for?
What's that?
No, I'm asking you. Do you know what that is code for? The .edu is like a college or education.
Yeah.
Would it be the University of Illinois at Chicago? Like the UIC Pavilion? I don't fucking know. I'm asking you.
I don't know. Back to you.
Well, you should know, because you're a young urban professional. Anyway, David says, Dear Jim, I just wanted to thank you and Brian for the amazing work every week on the podcast. Over the last few months, I've been working on completing my PhD in nuclear astrophysics.
Oh, wow.
He legitimately is a nuclear physicist.
What do you think? You're a rocket scientist? Yes. Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. And he says, in both the drive-thru and the experience have been perfect to have on while I've been working on my thesis. Can you imagine listening to our juvenility and tomfoolery while you're working on a thesis in nuclear astrophysics?
That's wild.
During many a long night, your podcasts have given me energy and allowed me to keep grinding and finish many a long chapter. So in some small way, didn't have to capitalize small, David. You and Brian can take joy in knowing you have helped advance science. Thanks again for all the work you two put into the podcast. Cheers, David. So now it sounds like he's from across the pond. But nevertheless, never doubt again the fact that we not only have a large and influential, but an educated and smart type of audience out there, Brian.
Dr. David.
Dr. David. Well, as he's doing is
he's going to get it.
When you,
I have faith in him.
Yeah, he sounds like he's going to get it, but you get that from the PhD, right? And then you go on to, or is that a doctorate? What is that?
If you're PhD,
I know this will shock many people. I never went to college. I don't really know how this shit works.
Hunter Thompson became doctor when he got like an honorary PhD. So PhD.
I thought he became doctor when he went to doctors regularly to prescribe him acid.
Maybe so.
Anyway, speaking of a person on, I can't even make the transition, a person on barbecue. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I had to watch because also it was only 20 minutes long if you recorded it and took out the commercials. But Braun Strowman, the former WWE giant, he's got a new show on USA Network. Have you heard about this? Everything on the Menu with Braun Strowman.
I've seen commercials for it, and I actually saw a few minutes of it because it aired. It must have been after SmackDown one day, and I still had the TV on, and I got to see, it must have been SmackDown, and I got to see a few minutes of it, and yeah, I was a little surprised because we didn't hear about this being a WWE thing, and WWE released him, and it's a WWE name that he's using. So that's the big surprise there, but what did you think of the show?
Well, I think I may know some of the reasoning behind it because they shot this when he was still with the WWE. You know, sometimes they pre-tape either the reality shows or whatever. They're taped months before they actually air. That's the one of the ribs about this program to me. And I'm not going to knock him. I mean, he's a very personable fellow. And this show, well, hold more on that in a minute, though. The show is a basic, if it's something that would be on the Food Network, or it would be Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, or it would be, Man versus Food, where the host goes to a town. They take him to a few restaurants with the camera crew. You see the ambiance inside, a little bit of the history of the place, whatever. They talk to the chef, go in the kitchen, put the food over, then they sit down and either they just try it, or if it's like eat a lot, they eat it, or whatever the fuck, right? Standard Food Network type of show. Very well done. Nice, peppy editing. 22 minutes with no commercials, so it's not too long. He's a very talkative fellow. Then I've said before, his problem is in wrestling and they started paying him so much money, he just wasn't worth that. There's a reason why that Andre traveled the globe, because if you saw Andre every goddamn show for a long time, you kind of seen it. This guy is not a great wrestler. He's got a great personality, but they hadn't really booked him interestingly. And so if you could only see him every once in a while, if I was him, I'd have pitched him, just give me, a little money for 10 dates a year and I'll come in and do whatever the fuck, but otherwise I'll do my own shit. But the USA Network obviously thought that they were getting a WWE personality because that's all they talk about on the first show. I watched the first episode that did, by the way, 400 and something. It did the ratings of a normal Dynamite these days. After SmackDown the first week, and then I think it's dropped since then.
Where did he eat? Where was he eating when you saw the episode?
It was in Texas, Angelo's Barbecue, and oh goddamn, I didn't even write it down, but a fancy restaurant that I'd not heard of that looked like they just had wonderful food, but the pork chop was $50. So one kind of barbecue place and the other kind of fancy upscale place. But the point being, they introduced it. They were in Fort Worth, Texas, because he was there for SmackDown. And they had shots of the building in SmackDown is full, and so is the restaurant, and blah, blah. They all through the show, he identified himself as the great reason, or the great thing about me being a WWE wrestler is I get to travel around and see these places and go to these restaurants. And after they'd come back from every break, they would show some WWE clip or whatever the fuck, and we're in town for SmackDown. So they thought they were getting a tie-in. By the time that he gets on the air, he's not there. That's what I'm like, what the fuck? They really must not have wanted to keep him.
That is weird, because they would know this show was in the can. And they still
it was all in, because it was obviously done in cooperation with them. But how long has he been gone now? When did they cut him?
Geez, I don't remember. It has to be right after WrestleMania, maybe, if I had to guess.
Okay, well, this was done late last year, early this year, and he didn't know, apparently. They didn't tell USA, whatever the case. But so anyway, back to the show itself. Nothing wrong with it. He does a good job. That's what I'm saying we don't want to see him wrestle all the time. But it doesn't mean he's a horrible personality. But it's misleading. He orders everything on the menu. You do not see him eat everything on the menu. Can you? And they've made it.
What do you mean? What do you see him eat?
Well, at the first place he went, the barbecue place, they just fed him the brisket, and he loved over that and talked about it. He did a regular Food Network type interview with the people there, and then he went over to the fancy place. He said, I'm just gonna have everything on and they bring him out everything. He's sitting at the table and he's tasting each thing while they have the close-ups. Somebody paid some fucking money to get to this. I think this fancy place was like, oh yeah, we'll goddamn do something to. But the lingering close-ups of the food as he tastes everything. And I'm thinking he better get started, because he's got 2 minutes to eat a whole table full of food. And that's what he said. Well, I got a lot to do. I got a lot to eat here. See you next time. And he starts like he's going to dig in, and that's the end. And I'm like, motherfucker, I want to see some Kobayashi shit going on with these goddamn $50 pork chops. So I don't doubt that he can eat a ton of food, but he did not. And I don't even know if any of the competitive eaters can. If you ordered a full dinner of everything on the menu, because they brought the plates with all the sides and all the shit and everything, I don't know if that's possible in a restaurant with any kind of variety. But it's misleading. He orders everything on the menu, but he doesn't eat everything on the fucking menu, Brian.
I was thinking about it recently, because obviously CNN for years had Anthony Bourdain and his show, which became pretty popular. And since he passed, it's like this really stupid trend. Because I think he was a personality people liked. It wasn't like, the concept's great. It was him. Like, it was him and the concept. But like, they have celebrities like do shows where they travel and try food. And I don't know if there's any audience for this. They did Stanley Tucci going to Italy to passively eat food in every place. It was the most boring show. They called me one night.
I've seen a clip of that, yes.
Yeah, it made me hungry when I saw like some of that Italian food. And then they did Eva Longoria going to Spain. And I'm seeing all these commercials. I'm like, who is watching this? And now it's Tony Shalhoub, the guy who played Monk, doing mini series about bread, where he goes to different places and you'll never guess it, eats bread. Again, I don't know why any of that's on CNN, and I don't know what the market is for that, for just kind of celebrities randomly doing shows where they travel and eat, but maybe that's what they thought they were doing with Braun Strowman here. Again, Swerve, he's no longer Braun Strowman, he's now Braun Mountbatten Windsor is his new name.
Well, no. That's the thing. The WWE had to have signed off on all of this because I can say because they are calling him Braun Strowman, or he's acknowledging that he was Braun Strowman. They have the WWE footage. His real name is used also, but I'm almost positive if there was even any talk of, hey, we can't do you USA can't air this show because we fired this guy. I'm sure the USA Network told him, motherfuckers, we've sent these camera crews out and paid for these $50 pork chops and all of whatever the fuck, right? And shot all his footage, put this show together. Fuck you. It's going to air whether he's there or not. And we're going to act like he's there. They may transition away from it as the show continues for however long it may continue. I understand the first episode that aired after SmackDown did, as I said, 400 and something. And then a second episode aired at 10:30 right after that and dropped to 200 and something thousand. I don't know if this concept has legs, but you can tell that WWE was not about to tell USA, don't, just go ahead. Tell him he's with the WWE, whatever you need to do to get out of this show.
The fact that there isn't footage, from what you saw of just him gorging himself on food, which is kind of what you think it would be, makes you wonder how much time was it. Like, does he hate food? Is he like one of these big bodybuilders that actually doesn't like to eat a lot of stuff?
No, he ate he ate with convincing gusto the samples that were set in front of him and put them over, and he knows a little bit about the terminology. Oh, this sauce is spicy but doesn't overpower the taste of the testicles, whatever the case. But it wasn't like any kind of competitive situation where I was expecting, is he going to the Big Texan in Amarillo, the 72-ounce steak dinner or whatever? But
yeah, that's kind of where I thought it was going to go too when you said he was in Texas.
They need, what? Klondike Bill came along 40 years too soon. Well, maybe 60 years too soon, but a lot of years too soon. If there was a Klondike Bill now, it's because he would be with whatever the Turner Company was, so they'd be able to get him on reality television. Then you'd see some goddamn eating. Brian, do the kids remember Klondike Bill? And have I told the story about Klondike Bill and the Big Texan Steak Ranch?
It's a famous story, and you've told it definitely in the past, but it may be years at this point. We certainly have a lot of new listeners who may not be aware of who he is.
I'll make reference to it, and then I will tell another one or two. But at the Big Texan Steak Ranch in Amarillo is on the side of Interstate 40. And they've been on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, or one of those programs. It's a big tourist thing. They sell all the gimmicks. They got all the pictures. It's West Texas. You can get the cowboy hat, blah, blah, blah. But it's also a steak restaurant. It's been there for 60 or 70 years or whatever the fuck it is. And they have a contest if you can eat the 72-ounce steak dinner. That's a 72-ounce steak, baked potato, salad, rolled butter, and shrimp cocktail. You eat the whole thing in an hour, you get it for free. And over the years, this has been going on for 60 years. Thousands of people have actually done it, but, multiple thousands of those have tried. But Klondike Bill, my old friend, when he was there in the early 60s, I think he's still up on their wall. Last time I was there, he was. In 1962 or whatever, he took the challenge, ate the dinner within an hour, got it for free, and then asked for another one and ate that too. And he's on the wall for being the only guy to ever eat 2 of them. But when he was in the Carolinas back in the 60s again for old man Crockett, Jim Crockett Sr., on Wednesdays, they'd go to Raleigh and then they'd travel the state highway, him and guys like Johnny Heidemann and those old timers. And there was a family buffet in one of the small towns between Charlotte and Raleigh. And the boys found it, and Klondike Bill and his car started going in there every Wednesday afternoon. They started, it was all you can eat buffet. This is 1966 or whatever. Was it $1.99? All you can eat, $1.99. Bill and them's come by for a few weeks. The signs, all you can eat, $2.99. They still keep going. All you can eat, $3.99. They still keep going. Finally, there's a sign, all you can eat, $1.99, no wrestlers. But he was the real fucking deal. And he was a strong man in his youth. And he was like 5'9", but he wrestled at 320 pounds or whatever. He's built like a barrel. But he was legendary. He was the real thing. He didn't look like Braun Strowman, but he could carry the part off, the Alaskan strongman.
I got to eat at the Big Texan one time when I was in Amarillo. It was me, Harry White, Bob Barnett, and Scott Cornish, the afternoon of the Terry Funk versus Bret Hart match. And his picture was on the wall. We saw Klondike Bill's picture on the wall.
Did you also see the big stuffed bison head?
Yeah, of course.
It's on the wall there right above the door when you come in and next to the game machine and everything. I have a profile picture of Bobby Eaton standing under that, turned to the side, because we made fun of this. Stan started just ribbing Bobby that his head was so big he had a bison head. And he started calling him Bison Eaton in the matches. And he'd go, Bison, give me the tag, whatever. But we walked in there and I took a picture of Bobby standing under his like family tree thing. There's the bison head off the wall and Bobby's similarity underneath it. Anyhow, all right, should we go to the segment where we did a segment, but then by the time we did the segment needed to be updated. So now we're going to update the segment. Should we go to that segment?
Yeah, this has become a semi-regular feature here on the show. The updated segment that was originally recorded for the drive-thru.
Well, if people would just speak more clearly, if we could love me more dearly, speak more fucking clearly every day. So the news came out several days ago. News came out several days ago that Mike Rotunda, who was obviously, legend from the 80s and Hall of Famer and his family tree and et cetera, that Mike Rotunda was in hospice care was what the word was at the time. And we had, Brian, you and I had not heard anything about any serious health problem that would cause something like that. We were shocked, and we talked about hearing that and about Mike Rotunda in general. And the way that it had come out was that Barry Windham, who obviously is Mike's best friend and brother-in-law, but also he's the Windham and Rotunda and Wyatt families. We talk about the various branches of that, but are all connected. So when Barry said whatever he said, which I really haven't heard the original interview, but people either interpreted it as Mike being in hospice when he was truthfully in the hospital, or potentially someone said that Barry was speaking about some of Bray Wyatt's health issues. Maybe people got the comments transposed. I don't know. But people got the impression he was in hospice. He is not in hospice and hadn't been in hospice. He has, however, been seriously ill in the hospital. And so it's not like, never mind. I mean, he still has had a serious health issue. It's just not what we reported. So we took the segment out of, because by the time that we were finished recording the program that it was going to air in, the news came out that it wasn't true. So we took it out of that program. But now that we have brought the topic up, Mike Rotunda still deserves being discussed and talked about, which we did at length. So we want to play our thoughts and comments, but we want to try to update people on what the newest information is, which was that he had apparently a serious heart attack back in the middle or end of September, and has been in the hospital and then recovering from that. And, so I think you even have a statement from the family to clarify everything.
I have a statement that was issued by Mika Rotunda. I assume that's his daughter. Public statement on behalf of the Rotunda family. Our family would like to take a moment to clarify some information currently circulating online regarding my father, Mike Rotunda. Yes, my Uncle Barry did make a comment mentioning that my father is in hospice care while answering a question about my late brother, Wyndham, whom we lost 2 years ago. My father is not in hospice, but rather in a rehabilitation center. He suffered a massive heart attack on September 20th, was in a coma for a week, and spent over a month hospitalized. By the grace of God, he has now transitioned to a rehabilitation center, where our family remains present, hopeful, and focused on his recovery. It has already been a long road, and we know there is still a long road ahead, but our faith in God remains strong. Anyone who knows my dad knows that it's his strength, work ethic, and athleticism that have carried him throughout not just this, but every challenge life has thrown his way. If there's one person I have faith in, it's Captain Mike. We are deeply grateful for the outpouring of love, prayers, and support from the wrestling world and our local communities. At this time, we kindly ask for privacy as we continue walking this journey together, but we warmly welcome continued prayers, good energy, and healing thoughts for his recovery. Signed with love and gratitude.
So that clears that up. And I assume and hopefully that means that Mike is out of any kind of woods, but he probably still has, work to do in front of him to get back in the place he needs to be. But having said that, Brian, did you want to at this time go to the nice things that we said about him when we didn't know what was wrong with him?
Let's go to this right now. This was originally recorded for Drive-Thru 416. Here it is now, Jim Cornette's talk about Mike Rotunda. One more topic before we get to whatever you watched on wrestling this past week. As we are recording today, news broke this morning, and I wanted to give you a chance to say a little something about it, that Mike Rotunda is in hospice care, and this is sudden news to us. We had not heard that this was happening, but what are your thoughts on what's going on?
Well, and I, like you heard this morning also on the internet, and like you, I didn't know that he'd been ill. I mean, I hadn't seen anything reported, and I'm sorry, if this has been going on for some time that I had missed it, but just a really nice guy. And except for that one job guy that they replay the clip on Twitter over and over that he had to kind of take down, goozle, stretch, and pin on that one WCW match back in the late 80s. Nobody that I've ever known had any problem with Mike Rotunda. A really great amateur wrestler, hotshot amateur in school, and then used a lot of that in some of his gimmicks. I don't know where Captain Mike Rotunda came from that time with him and Norman and whatever. I'd never known him to be a ship captain. But the varsity club thing, that's why they put that together. Him and Rick Steiner they were both hotshot amateurs, in their school days. So anyway, I worked with him in Crockett, and he had already been pretty much a star in Florida at that point in time. And I think had already had maybe his first run with Barry Windham as the U.S. Express in '85, right?
That is correct. Yeah. He stayed there.
And then,
well, I mean, it's a weird thing. Him and Barry Windham get the mega push managed by Lou Albano as a babyface with Born in the USA as their theme song until they replace it with Real American, which was going to be theirs. And they win the belts, they lose the belts, they win them back. The fans are super into them. Windham leaves. And I think it goes that like Mike Rotunda left with him and then quickly returned, but Windham didn't. And that's when they started teaming him up with Dan Spivey as the second version of the U.S. Express up until the very beginning of '87. And then he went back to Florida, which at that time was about to be absorbed by Crockett.
Yes. And Barry was bouncing back and forth regularly at that point in time. But that's the thing. I think he was the kind of guy that they were always trying to give him a gimmick because he had personality, but it was more reserved. and he was a good worker and a good talent, but they were always trying in those days to give him a gimmick or personality of some kind. And then Vince came up with the idea of, a tax agent is not supposed to they're supposed to be like the stern-faced, look over the glasses type of personality. So that I think worked. But anyway, I sure hate to hear that. And we send the bet to the whole family, because I guess most people know that Barry and Mike were brothers-in-law because Barry's father, Blackjack, and had another daughter that Mike married, and the Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas, and I can't do the whole family tree off the top of my head, but they're all related is what I'm trying to say. And so they've obviously had a lot to deal with.
I know you couldn't keep a gimmick forever of being like an angry college athlete, but Varsity Club Mike Rotunda is one of like my favorite things. And for all the doom and gloom about 1988 NWA, when I think about it, I think about the things I really loved. The stuff you were doing with the Fantastics, and then I can't even really say the Horseman stuff because that really wasn't even on cable. It was only on the worldwide stuff, which eventually I had to get. But there was good stuff happening too. And I think throughout '88, the Varsity Club with Kevin, Mike Rotunda, and Rick Steiner. I mean, that's what got Rick Steiner over as a star, was that run. And it wasn't just by being himself. It was the interaction with him and Mike Rotunda. When they finally turned him, that was the match at Starrcade. It was Rick Steiner versus Mike Rotunda. And the place went fucking crazy for Rick Steiner.
Well, that's... Rotunda was perfect as the, not I don't want to say prissy heel, but the stick up his ass heel that was even more straight laced because he was the, varsity type athlete. And there's Rick Steiner as the dog faced gremlin, and he just, nutty as a fucking fruitcake. And then there's Sullivan, who's crazy in a completely different way, trying to keep them both together and corralled. And that's the differences is what made the angle.
And then, it got weird because after Rick Steiner left, the thing continued, but like Dan Spivey, I think, joined again, and Dr. Death was a part of it. And that was my first exposure to Mike Rotunda, was the feud with Dr. Death in 1989.
Yeah, that was, again, they were playing off the fact that they both had the amateur backgrounds and everything, but that, it wasn't the best use of either guy at that point in time. And, that was the thing also was remember when he was coming out to the entrance music was when he was Captain Mike Rotunda, when they switched him babyface, and then he was trying to smile and be a babyface. And, I think he spent some time didn't he do school teaching after he got out of the ring or something? He just wasn't like a Tommy Rich wildfire fucking baby face. But the entrance music was, that's what I like about you.
Oh my
You really, the Romantics, my old friends from Michigan, right? Yeah. They were big fans of ours, but I don't know what that had to do, that song had to do with Mike Rotunda or what he was the captain of, unless they'd give him a girl named Tennille.
See, within 6 months, he went from still being the angry jock, doing stuff with Kevin Sullivan, to he was a babyface, and then all of a sudden his hair started growing, and then all of a sudden he's wearing a windbreaker. And then all of a sudden he was wearing a captain's hat. He went from being the wrestling team captain, somehow that transitioned to being a yacht captain. And who's on his yacht? We talked about this the other day. Abdullah the Butcher and babyface Norman the Lunatic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just such a weird, what is going on here? What is happening here?
And then many people don't know this, but then later on, he had Michael McDonald on his yacht, and they invented yacht rock. So,
well, I don't know about that, but obviously Mike Rotunda's in everyone's wishes, and everyone's thinking of the family right now. Well, there it is, Jim, the conversation we had about the career of Mike Rotunda. We're happy to hear that he's in a rehabilitation center, and as his daughter asked for, we're certainly sending positive vibes. You know, I brought up the Varsity Club, and I hate to obsess over the Varsity Club, but they were so cool. It's a case where you have two guys perfectly cast. It made Rick Steiner, and there's no one else who could have done that. But Mike Rotunda was so perfect in that gimmick, so believable. It was like another person from the curly-haired babyface of a year and a half earlier.
The straight man.
There was no one who could have done that better. I'm convinced that Rick Steiner and him were like the perfect two guys for that. And it worked perfectly.
Yeah, because Mike was legitimate and fit the Varsity Club thing and was like the school jock and the, superior type of, guy with a stick up his ass and everything. And here's this crazy fucking gremlin partner. If they'd have both been wacky, or even if Mike had been a regular wrestler, it wouldn't have worked. It had to be the contrast. And it was Abbott and Costello, but in the ring without trying to be funny. And Steiner was. And Rotunda's reactions made him funnier.
And it was a little less than a year earlier, he was in a feud with like Ed the Bull Gantner in Florida.
Yeah.
And that was right after he had been, again, a curly-haired, smiling babyface. So just the recreation of him in a gimmick that worked perfectly, it's kind of amazing because he had been another guy completely, yet it worked. But big fan of Captain Mike Rotunda in the Varsity Club. And, I don't know if I've told you this, but the Wyndham thing, the idea that he said hospice or Barry Wyndham, I should specify with the family, that he said hospice when it was actually not that. Did I ever tell you about when I was involved with managing a rapper?
No.
With Gene Simmons, with the black Gene Simmons?
No, wait, there's a black Gene Simmons, and you co-managed a rapper with a guy named...
Briefly.
Help me understand. Yeah. How did you did you lose a bet?
Well, no, I didn't lose a bet, but I'll explain how this all ties to the Barry Wyndham thing, which made me think of it. So when I was working at Sony Music early on in my career, I had become friends with various people in the industry. And I had met a guy who said he was managing a rapper, and his name was Gene Simmons. It was a famous name in music, but this was not the guy from Kiss. It was a black guy from, I believe, northern New Jersey at that time. Really good guy. We became really good friends.
So the Jersey branch of the Simmons family.
And again, we became really good friends. He would come out and hang out with us on the beach. We had some really fun times. And he was later in the movie American Gangsta. If you ever see that, when they walk into the room where they're preparing the drugs, all the topless women, he's the bodyguard by the door, which caused me to pop in the movie theater when I saw that. But he comes and we're talking about this rapper he's managing named Shade. At the same time that was Slim Shady, but that's a whole nother issue. But this guy Shade had a lot of talent, a lot of skills, had a really good producer he was working with that I was doing some stuff with. And there was one song that was intriguing at that time. It was called the HIV song. And it was him rapping from the point of view of being the virus. It was a socially conscious rap song from an artist who didn't have a lot of like socially conscious material typically.
From a virus's point of view.
Well, the story was, and I actually thought this was a heck of a little hook. The story that Gene Simmons told me was that Shade's mother had AIDS. And it was his, reaction to this tragic news at that time. He wrote this rap. And it was a interesting song, and it was actually a well-done production. So I said, let's see what we could do, if there's anything to be done. And at that time, I had it brought to an A&R guy at Sony named Keith Naftali, who, if you're from the Bay Area, he's kind of, I guess, a legend for dance music and hip-hop on the radio. He was doing A&R there at the time. And he didn't see it, and it ended up not working out. But the day it went to him, I'm on the phone with Gene Simmons in my office at Sony, 32nd floor. And I tell him, yeah, I'll let you know how it goes, but, we're going to play him the song, talk to him about it, see what he says. And I said, I just think, hopefully they understand, too, there's a great story to be told about this guy reacting to his mom's illness and writing this rap. There's something there.
That's what people, if anything happened, is what they would be hanging their hat on.
So then Gene says to me, yeah, I forgot. I meant to tell you about that. It's not his mom, it's his aunt. And I said, oh, all right. That's not the biggest deal. And then he says, it's not AIDS, it's lupus. I said, what the fuck? I mean, the whole pitch is it's the HIV song. It says mom has AIDS. Not his mom has lupus. How did he write the song if his mom has lupus? Yeah, what?
And now, on American Top 40, he wrote this song because his aunt has lupus.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fucking funny because how the hell does this happen? Why was I told the exact opposite? But that's my story about briefly co-managing a rapper with the HIV song.
At least you didn't get either lupus or HIV from this experience.
It's not HIV. It's not AIDS. It's lupus. I was like, what? Like, that's not even close. It's not even close as diseases go. What the fuck?
It's way off on the disease meter.
It's on the other side of the scale.
And then there's lycanthropy in the middle. See? And you never know what'll happen. Folks, here's something that I've said many times. If you have to lay in a hospital bed for an extended period of time in traction, immobile, hooked up to machines, being monitored by electronic devices, what's going to make you happy? The right pair of earbuds. Haven't I said that 100 times, Brian?
Oh, I don't know. At least 90.
Every time I hear about somebody that's laid up in some kind of body cast, that's hanging from a system of wires and pulleys from the ceiling. Wow, you're like a wind chime. In the hospital room, when they open the window, bells go off on your ass. You need the right kind of earbuds to put yourself in the right frame of mind in a situation like that. If you're in that particular situation, what I'm saying is morale could be low. I think you'll agree with that, don't you, Brian? That if for some reason or another you were poured into a cement overcoat to where you couldn't even scratch your own balls or asshole, and then you were strapped to a goddamn plank while being plugged into a wall, and you got to stay there for 6, 8, 10 months while they're rebuilding the iron lung to get it ready for you, you need earbuds or you're going to get in a grumpy mood, right?
Again, maybe not the best example, but earbuds are good for everybody. I would say that. And of course, I love a certain pair of earbuds that we're going to talk about right now. I know.
Well, those Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic right. is what you're talking about.
Bingo.
No reason to be bashful.
I love my Raycon. I think the listeners who have gotten their Raycons love their Raycons. And of course, you don't need to be in an iron lug. And no one is currently, as we record right now. You don't need to be like that to enjoy good sounds.
I don't want to go on with you like that. What I want to talk about is the wonderful Everyday Earbuds Classic that are loaded with the upgrades like the active noise cancellation, the multi-point connectivity, That pairing of two devices at the same time, it's kismet, it's magic. And an ergonomic fit that stays put inside your ear canal no matter what you're doing. Whether you could be physically assaulted on the street, you could have a safe fall on your head. When they remove the stain that used to be your cranium, those earbuds will be right in the middle of it.
You can walk to work. You can go.
You can walk to work. That's right. You can. You'll be doing cartwheels on the way to work if you're listening to the right kind of music. I'm walking on sunshine. See, they wonder, why is he skipping down a sidewalk? He just skipping down a. He must be the happiest son of a bitch in the world. He's skipping down a sidewalk. Shit. He ran the red light, and that rainbow bread truck just ran him over. But folks,
again, not the best example. And walking on sunshine,
they've got an awareness mode. They've got an awareness mode. See, that's up to that guy that just got smeared by that bread truck, because the Raycons have an awareness mode that if he'd had the sense to act, a sense that God gave a goose, as Mama Cornette would say, to have activated that awareness mode, or when he's walking the dog or running errands, then he would know what's going on around him without missing the beat, instead of, boom, getting your meat beat by a truck.
Again, that's not what that means. But ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here, you hear what that means? That means it's time for the truth. We're talking about a great earbud.
Well, boy, howdy, I'll tell you what, it is true. It's true every step of the way, because they are now Raycon. You know what and they got the 30-day happiness guarantee. We've talked about that many times. You got to be happy for 30 days or they'll come and tickle you until you start laughing.
No, they will make sure you're happy with your Raycon earbuds, and who wouldn't be? We are. I know Stacey Cornette is a major fan, and of course, we have a great deal for the listeners here.
She got the cool mint color. You got the blush violet, I believe. There's all kinds of vibrant colors that they come in. But did you hear the big news now? You may want to get some more of these things while you got the opportunity, because Black Friday's coming up, Cyber Monday's coming up, all of those different type of days are coming up. Well, we got days for you right now where everything at Raycon, Raycon, by Raycon.com is 30% off. If you use the code JCE, by Raycon.com/JCE, 30% off everything on the site. So to hell with your Black Fridays and your Cyber Mondays and your Titty Tuesdays and your Thirsty Thursdays and your shitty Saturdays.
What about
it don't matter what day of the week it is. Just go to buy Raycon. What about
Wednesday?
Well, Wednesday occasionally is okay because you're halfway in between shit and more shit. BuyRaycon.com/JCE. 30% off everything that you would ever want. So whether you're laying there, whether you're propped up on the porch, whether rigor mortis has set in and they can't bend your legs and the coffin was too short, so they've just propped you up on the porch. Neighborhood kids come over and throw black walnuts at you all the time.
Again, details that are not needed, but ladies and gentlemen, if you're propped up on the porch and you want to hear some good sounds, we recommend Raycon.
Sounds of any kind. People talking. Could be people talking.
Oh, Inoki just died again. Fuck.
Oh, see there, folks, you can get the news that Inoki just died again. Oh, now he's... Oh, you hear his last gasp for breath.
All right, well, we have to end this. Jim, one more time.
Yes.
That wonderful promo code.
BuyRaycon.com/JCE, 30% off. Listen to all of the earbuds. All right, Brian. Well, was that ringing in your ears last night, the sound of the Halloween Smackdown from Salt Lake City? Not your Raycon everyday earbuds?
No, it was my tinnitus, my WWE tinnitus.
I just realized that they're in Salt Lake City for SmackDown, and then they're in Salt Lake City for the Saturday night's main event, same building, 2 nights. But the poor people that got tickets to this SmackDown, again, they just, I know in the early days of television wrestling, they used to show public workouts, and that seemed kind of boring, but people watched them. But they just came to watch them warm up the fucking television equipment for the big show the following night here, didn't they?
And I don't know when in the night it's from, but there's a picture circulating of someone saying they were at SmackDown, and here's like opposite camera side, and it's just a bunch of empty seats. Now, again, it's so much you would think you would notice it, so you don't know when, if it's like, an hour before showtime or whatever. But
Well,
I think, they're doubling down not just on the high prices, but on doing multiple things in one town over a weekend. And, you have to wonder how many people attended SmackDown that are also going to attend Saturday night's main event.
well, and that's the thing. I was trying to remember, and I didn't have time to go look in my books, but if I've been in Salt Lake City, it was only once, and I did every TV taping that the WWE did for almost everyone from middle of 1993 to the early part of 1999. And they didn't used to get a lot of TVs because in the old days when they would route the tapings with, house shows and, tapings like a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday grouping, you can't route Salt Lake City with much. It's just out there. There's not a lot, comfortably drivable. And I think they need to realize that the population of the town may be, large, but they're depending now, I think they'll find out, on a lot of people that drive 100 miles, 150 miles, maybe 180 miles, the more dedicated people to these TV tapings and live events. And I don't have my Rand McNally within reach without getting off of headset, but Salt Lake City's in the middle of fucking nowhere. So not to knock the town, but they don't have a lot of suburbs. You see what I'm saying? So anyway.
It's a hotbed of decency.
And then there's that. A lot of white people out there, just decent white people. So.
And they got a decent SmackDown.
What? No, they didn't. Everybody may have exhibited decency, but it wasn't that decent. So the first thing right off the bat, Tiffany Stratton comes out. She's mad at Jade Cargill. Jade turned on her. They'd showed that highlight. She called Jade out. Here came Aldis instead. No, we can't have physical contact until our match tomorrow night. And this was going to be a theme that all these people are thinking, goddamn, if we don't have tickets for tomorrow night, we should have got them. And then Jade came out in a full body scuba suit. And here came security. The indie guys that do the statue poses and make the exaggerated phony facials. And they wouldn't let Jade through, so Tiffany went to Jade, but a security guard caught her and picked her up, so they ended up staring at each other from a distance until tonight. Or as they said last night, tomorrow night. And that was that whole segment, Brian, wasn't it? Pretty much.
Again, I don't want to start going off on a rant about the same things keep happening on both shows with different people, sometimes the same people, but it feels more and more like a road to nowhere. Okay, this happened again. This is happening again. Oh, I'm surprised the general manager just came out to do so. Everything is like the same trope that they've been doing forever. And, it's weird that they haven't, I don't know, they got so much credit when they changed the production after Kevin Dunn. When Lee Fitting came in and really upgraded everything.
Well, they're still shooting it a lot better.
Right, but I'm
But
saying Triple H got a lot of
it's the
credit
same
too.
milk it's going into the new bottle.
And everyone was raving about Triple H, in part because everyone was happy that it was someone other than Vince, and in part because things were hot. It felt like things were happening, and if you think about like the core period as the Bloodline was taking place, it felt like the big one hasn't happened yet. Like the big thing, it's building to something. Something has to happen. It must be huge what's going to happen. Nothing happened. Solo broke off and had his own bloodline. Jey Uso became a big babyface. Roman disappeared. Nothing happened. And now they're trying to rehash a lot of that, with some things, but nothing happens on these shows. So I'm at the point now where I don't watch them live, SmackDown specifically. I'll wait to hear what happened, and then I'll go check it out.
Well, I always accuse AEW of doing this, and since they did it in the WWE, I have to call them out on it also. We love Ilya. Ilya is great, right? We were digging Ilya. So Ilya comes to the ring for a U.S. title match, his open challenge, and they're going to give it to this Nathan Frazier character with his masked partner, Axiom. And I thought at first they were going to swerve it, and I was going to like it because Ciampa came out, blew right past those guys, got in the ring and said, "You can't be serious. You're going to give this nerd," pointing to Frazier, a shot at the U.S. title. And I'm like, okay, Ciampa and Gargano are heels now in this universe somewhere. And I'm like, okay, I love to see Ciampa and Ilya. Let's do this because Frazier does look like a random UPS driver. But then, no, Frazier bowed up at Ciampa and Ilya interrupted. The open challenges for everybody, but Nathan Frazier was here first, and he called Tommaso a jackass, and Tommaso left. And then now I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, we're going to have this match where they're going to do the same thing they do in AEW. This guy with no body, no tan, no charisma, no personality, a bad haircut, is going to be competitive with Ilya, the new U.S. champion, who can hang toe-to-toe with Gunther. And, well, 19 minutes later, including 2 3-minute breaks, they were still going. And, boy, they were having a barn burner with this oil salesman, whatever the fuck he is. And then, again, another thing, nobody's learning from Ibushi and Alexander. They go to do a deal where Nathan Frazier is going to the top leg. He's going to moonsault off backwards. And Ilya is supposed to grab him and German him off. But they tried forever to set it up. And then at one point that Ilya was ready for it, but Frazier wasn't. So Frazier stopped him. Ilya got down, got back up. Then they go to do it. And their timing was off, and they fell in a heap, and Frazier almost landed on his fucking head. And Ilya covered him 2 count. I think, Jesus. And then Ilya powerbombed him and hit his forearm finish, 1, 2, 3. So the last minute of the match is supposed to be one of the most exciting minutes of the entire match, if not the most. And all these guys are doing something where they have to be almost stationary for a minute or longer to set up one bump for a 3-second pop, and it's not even the finish. And then Ciampa came out and leveled Frazier, and here came Gargano, and Axiom got involved, and they all fought to the back. But, Rod, do you see what I mean about? They're trying to... They spend a minute trying to set up 3 seconds of pop instead of tearing the house down for a minute and getting a pop.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger issue is just you're trying to establish Ilya. You brought up the Gunther matches, great matches. We loved them. I don't presume that the majority of the SmackDown audience saw those matches. You're still establishing him. He just won the belt My gut would tell me don't put him in a long competitive match with one half of one of the tag teams on the card.
That would just be your gut.
Long competitive match. I mean, just why? How does that help anyone? If you look at the other options against it, have him win quickly over someone. Have him win decisively in 10 minutes, but we go WWE pace. Whatever you want to say. Every other option's better.
Get anybody else on the roster that can do a job for him that is not a wet dish rag. And Frazier does moves, but look at the state of him. Speaking of the state of people, then they had Kent Wilson against Carmelo Hayes. No more needs to be said. At the 9 o'clock hour, it was Refrigerator Jax versus Alexa Bliss. I'm like, my God, 100 pounds against 400 pounds. It looked like Vader against Darlin Dagmar. So we're already an hour, and by the time that's over, an hour, 10, hour and 15 minutes into the show. Then they had a package. Apparently there was a big college football game this weekend in Salt Lake City. And they had the mascots for the Cincinnati Bearcats and the Salt Lake City mascot was a bird. What is their team? The condors, the fucking birds of prey, the vultures, the pterodactyls. What are they?
The Salt Lake City team of what?
Of whatever the fucking football that these mascots are having a wrestling match over.
I don't know. Hold on.
Oh, he's typing it in now. Come on.
The Salt Lake are the real. There's a soccer team. There's no football team in Salt Lake City.
What the college? They had the mascots for they were all through the show. They were pumping this fucking college football confrontation and the belts that the football team has that they've given them, the championship belts.
Oh,
you have no knowledge.
No,
here we go.
Again, this is not the part of the sports world I tend to pay attention to.
You're not up on the Salt Lake City college football teams.
Ahead of the Utah Utes college football matchup.
Wait a minute. These two Utes?
The Utah Utes, ahead of their college football matchup against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Their mascots faced off in the squared circle on SmackDown.
Okay, I can understand what a Bearcat is. And old Corey Graves, he even plug, like in the great tradition of Bearcat Wright, Bearcat Lee. But I know what a
great tradition of Bearcat Lee.
Yeah, yes, right. He said that. What is a Ute?
According to this, it appears to be a bird. Because I'm watching the match right now. Oh my God! I've never seen anyone take a bump like this. What is
that's the
this?
problem.
Was on the show? They aired this?
Yes, they had a package. You missed this. It was like 2 minutes long. A package of the Cincinnati mascot, the Bearcat, in the ring earlier that day with people there, though. But before the actual live show started, obviously they didn't want to leave that to chance. This was heavily edited as it was. And the bird from Salt Lake. And they were doing, and then the bird won with the people's wing. He dropped the elbow like it was not long enough to be an expose because it was so ludicrous, but it was an illustration of how guy's never been in the ring before tries to hit the ropes. It's ugly. It's ugly.
I apologize for not being familiar with the Utah Utes.
Well, you can't control these Utes anymore. They get all hopped up on them marijuana pills. Then they had This Is Smackdown on what's left of national television. Then they had JC Mateo and Tama Tonga with the rest of the other motherfucking Tongans against Shelly and Shaban. Shelly and Sabin, the machine guns, and they had them about a 10-minute match, which the Tongans won, and then all 5 of the Tongans with their faces painted like panda bears tried to get heat on the guns, but all these heels are on different pages. At one point, one guy just grabbed Saban and shoved him toward the other guy, and the other guy wasn't ready. Saban's like, "What do you want me to do here? What the fuck?" And they can't get heat, and they're not coordinated in a group fashion. And then Phoenix came out, and they stopped him. And then Nakamura came out and made a comeback, and they stopped him. Then after they stopped him, there's 4 baby faces laid out. They just stopped and they played the music and they all stood there. The path of destruction of the Tongans is wading through the undercard. I don't know what the fuck. All righty. Are you ready for the main event segment, Brian? What we've all been waiting for.
I mean, I think it's all been a main event so far, but yeah.
Well, all these matches are main events in any territory in the country. They got 17 minutes left on the air. Nick Aldis is in the ring. He is going to have they got the table. They got the chairs. The contract signing for the World Championship match that is going to take place in 24 hours from the contract signing that's already been advertised for 2 weeks. I know we've established that they're ceremonial, but isn't this a lazy booking again? Oh, it's another reason for them to get out there together and talk to each other.
We've seen more contract signings from both companies in the last 3 years, 4 years than I ever did growing up watching wrestling. It wasn't like a thing all the time.
We've seen more than I ever did in 25 years in wrestling. It either on camera or off. But anyway, we're going to sign the contract for tomorrow's main event on Saturday night's main event. And he introduced Cody. And Cody made his entrance. And 3 minutes later, Cody said, "Happy Halloween" to Salt Lake City. And then Aldis introduced Drew. And Drew made his entrance. He made it in under a minute and a half. He wasn't dicking around. And then this went back and forth, but the whole problem was that Drew didn't want to sign it because the contract was lopsided. Aldis kept trying to talk him into it, but no, Drew's point was if Cody gets disqualified or counted out, he retains the title. If I get disqualified or counted out, Cody retains the title. There's almost no way for me to win. Like it has been for every goddamn match since the dawn. But nevertheless.
But he put it well. I mean, that's the thing.
He did put it well.
When you actually lay it out, you're like, yeah, he's right. He really is at a disadvantage.
He did lay it out where he was, and that's the brilliance of Drew McIntyre, is that he does have a legitimate complaints, but he's such a fucking whiny baby about it in his own way. That's what gets the heat. And Aldis threatens, "I'll just take you out of the match, get somebody else." And Cody just said, "No, what the fuck? Sit down, Drew. I know what you want. You want a match where if I get disqualified, I lose the title. And if I get counted out, I lose the title. And I'm fine with that." And Aldis wasn't sure about it, but Cody was adamant. And that's when Drew signed and he cut the promo on Cody. He's the real American dream. And Cody cut a promo on Drew saying that I walked out to find my own way, but you got fired. And nice guys used to finish last till I showed up, which was good. And then Drew mentioned Cody's daughters, and Cody attacked him, and Drew bailed. And then as Cody was talking to Aldis, Drew came back in and hit the kick on him and powerbombed him through the table. The kick used to it have been enough, but they can't not break a table. And that was the show. And the top guys get 15 minutes to say 3 or 4 or 5 minutes worth of stuff, and they break a table. And, there's some long matches, and yeah.
Is Triple H a creative genius because he gets away with doing less than right now, less than you should be able to, and they're still doing good business? Or is Triple H, I don't even know if that's the best way to put it. Is he the lead booker, or is he just the head of the creative group who makes the choices? But
You don't need to have guys taking a million bumps or doing all kinds of dangerous shit to make this show or any of these shows move faster or be more exciting. And they've got a large roster. And if they would expose another 10 guys over a course of a month or two, then they could, instead of Elia and Frazier for 20 minutes, they could have 4 guys for 10 minutes each. They could open up the show, instead of the travelogue and the drone shots and the constant glorification of look where we are. Establish where they are, and then we don't care where you are. Have the announcer stand up at the start of the program with a big fight, and we're here. It's Ali and Frazier in the garden. Start out with a fucking hot match. Even if it's only for 8 minutes, get some action going. Then have your long interview segment. But Jesus Christ, you don't have to play the disco single of everybody's entrance music and it take 5 fucking minutes. Just keep it moving and have more of a sense of
just action,
excitement, and urgency instead of commercials, infomercial, and travelogue. And look at all our fancy shots. Love the way the show is shot, but don't rely on it as the calling card. That would be my thoughts. I don't know. Am I crazy?
No, I saw someone post something, and I don't remember the exact quote. It was someone in the Cult of Cornette group. It was something like, right now, they're not giving you like hot feuds. They're giving you vibes. You're going there to kind of just be part of the vibe, and you know which parts you could sing along to. Because at this point, it's not just like it's about a song. It's about, there are various things throughout the night that you can participate in. And it's whether that's because of the way they're booking or whether the booking, is following that, I don't know. But these shows are not, the more weeks that go by that I don't feel an urge to watch SmackDown, the less likely I am to say, hey, let me change my Friday schedule this week.
and watch SmackDown.
Yeah. And just again, it's about action. There's a lot of Memphis wrestling episodes I loved where I couldn't even tell you, they were just squash matches. It wasn't like there was a big match. The action wasn't always there. It may have ended up in the ring, but it would start over by the announcers who had credibility. And they would usually start with the baby faces having a conversation, and then shit would happen. Or the heel would come out, and whatever it is, and then one thing would lead to another, all in one episode. Now, Memphis was only 90 minutes. This is a 2-hour show, although with commercials.
And the rest of it around the territory was an hour. But the 90 minutes was still exciting, but the hour was even more, fast moving because you had less time. And it even in any territory, you had a limited amount of time. You wanted to get the most out of it. And the squash matches for 3 or 4 minutes, the stars doing all the cool shit that they did to some fucking crash test dummy was entertaining, but you couldn't do it for 10, 12 fucking minutes. It just, the pace of everything was increased. And that's why I don't understand why everybody talks. Cornette loves the days of 30-minute headlocks. What the I wasn't around for Strangler Lewis. I appreciate him for historical value. I'm not sure anybody should imitate the style today, but where was there a 30-minute headlock in the territory days, especially on television? You know what they didn't have either? 10-minute fucking entrances.
Well, they have certainly decided to go down a road that they're not looking to get off right now. We'll see what happens after the Cena retirement. It feels like everything right now is in a holding pattern. I mean, that's really what it feels like, actually. Raw and SmackDown, it's like a holding pattern.
Well, that's because the air traffic controllers are all pissed off and looking for another job.
That's right.
Say just don't nobody land nothing, just everybody be right there. But that's the thing, Brian, is if you're looking for excitement, well, you can't go to the wrestling show anymore because that's just too much discussion. We need a little less talk and a little more action. You know where you go to have the real hot action go on, Brian? The casino. You go to the casino, things are happening, things are popping. You got Frank Sinatra the Fourth in the lounge singing all the swinging hits, and you got the cigarette girls with the trays around their neck and the voluptuous breastages out hanging all over everything. And you got the prime rib buffet, all you can eat for $2.99.
Well, now you've gone too far. Now you've gone too far.
Well, ptomaine may be included. At the casino, everything's always hopping, and only occasionally do the feds come in and accuse you of counting cards. But let's say you take this to task. You have doubts about this.
Well, again, I don't know if that's the best example to use, but we're not talking about what you're talking about. We're talking about a more
see, the feds can't come into the online virtual casinos. That's the best part about them.
Well, no, first of all, that's
as a
not
matter
the
of
best.
fact, you can be carrying any kind of contraband on your person when you go to the DraftKings casino because they can't search you. I mean, you could be sitting there in your own home with who knows what in your pocket, or potentially your hands in your pocket.
Jim,
playing a little pocket pool.
Jim, sometimes sometimes you get on the road.
Yes.
And sometimes you start going to your location, you realize, I got to make a U-turn and go back and start over. And I think what we want to say is that for everyone out there looking for that casino experience in a fun, practical way on your smartphone, let's say that.
Yes.
DK Casino is there for you.
The only thing that DK Casino will not do is provide the hookers. You've got to actually get on your phone and another type of app.
You can't encourage.
But if you
can't encourage that. That's not right.
Well, you can't have a casino without hookers. They got to be standing by watching you do this. So you have them come over to your house. Just keep an eye on them.
Again, one of the beautiful things about DK Casino, disease-free, nothing to worry about.
Well, you don't have to actually do anything with the hookers. They just got to watch you play. Haven't you seen all these casino movies? There's always a hooker looking over your shoulder. Folks, I'll tell you what, you can turn up the heat with DraftKings Casino, which is the home of cash eruption. That's another thing that happens when hookers are around. Cash erupts all over the place. You can spin the largest collection of cash eruption slots, including new and exclusive Big Bank Breakout. Did you see that movie, Brian? It was a goddamn monogram picture. Big Bank Breakout. It's where the crooks got locked inside the bank vault and they had to break out. And that's where the name has come from now for the DraftKings Casino, because they're going to break you out of the bank with the bank's money in your pocket.
I don't know if this has...
and then they're going to relocate you. They're going to relocate you overseas. You'll get a brand new name and you'll have enough money after they break you out of the... Of course, you've got to get into the bank vault. It's your responsibility, folks, to get into that vault, and then the DraftKings Casino Big Bank Breakout will break you out. Folks, once again, the best thing to do is just try it out and see that everything I'm saying is nearly almost all completely said by me. New players will get 500 spins over 10 days of Tiger Da on your choice of cash eruption slots when you wager $5. Let me say this again with clarity. You're going to get 500 spins over 10 days on your choice of cash eruption slots when you wager $5. And boy, if you've got time even in 10 days that you can spin this thing 500 times, you ought to go out and get you a job. Play classic cash eruption today, then red hot joker or coins and clovers tomorrow. And just be willy-nilly about the whole thing. It's all up to you. Get the app. That's the DraftKings Casino app. Sign up with the code Cornette. That's my name. Don't wear it out. And then start spinning on the home of cash eruption, where cash will erupt all over you in a lava-like fashion splurting and splooging and slithering all over you. You'll just be buried in money.
Just metaphorically all over the place.
Filthy lucre.
Just lathered in no. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's get serious for a moment here.
Yes, in partnership with DraftKings Casino, we're going to get serious. Go ahead, get serious.
Of course. No, I can't get serious. My face is not cooperating with.
Well, you see, folks, when the crown is yours, your face will not cooperate in the place. But you're going to have cash erupting on you. The DraftKings Casino will show you the way. Again, just have hookers looking over your shoulder for good luck, and they can kiss your chips. Because at DraftKings Casino, 500 spins over 10 days on your choice. When you wager $5, it's all up to you. DraftKings, the crown is yours. And you know what I'm going to say next. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly and be 21 plus. Physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. Non-withdrawable. Casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days, valid for featured game only, and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends January 4th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Please send oxygen for the announcers or do a pre-recorded spot for your fine advertisers.
Like you used to.
Like you used to, because this commercial may be void when I fucking pass out from oxygen deprivation. Crown's yours, baby.
The crown is yours, and I'm going to give you a second to make sure that your oxygen is yours, Jim. And of course, this has been just such a fantastic show so far. And yet, we haven't even gotten to AEW, but we're all hoping that the air has returned to your lungs. How are you feeling?
Yes, I'm doing fine now. I'm finer than frog's hair and ready to hop is what I'm doing. And I'm ready to hop over, Brian, to AEW's Fright Night. The ratings are scary. We're going to catch people up on that here just in a few minutes, but we got to talk. They were in Edinburgh, Texas. If they said I missed it, what part of Texas is Edinburgh, Texas in that we would, the Houston, the Dallas, the San Antonio, the Amarillo, the Lubbock, the San Angelo, the Corpus Christi, where the fuck is Edinburgh?
Hidalgo County.
That would be way down south in South Texas, way down yonder in the Paw Patch.
Reynosa is nearby. Reynosa, Texas.
Is that near Harlingen? Brownsville? Is that part of, that's way down there. That is actually, there are parts of Texas that are further south than many parts of northern Mexico.
Yeah, this is as close to the Mexican border as you can get.
So the point is, it wasn't a big metropolitan area is what I'm trying to say. And I wasn't sure where it was. But tonight being the night that we're talking about, they did what I said they ought to do, kinda. Remember I said the other day, geez, the show came on, and by the time they showed clips and they had matches announced and billboards and graphics and then a low energy behind the backstage promo, whatever. Well, this time they went straight into action. And the first thing that you saw and heard was Pockets coming to the ring. So they went straight into a match, straight into action, but they did it where you can't take it seriously from the start. And to compound that, they teamed up Darby, their top babyface that's not out injured, and they teamed him up with the mascot. So if you're just watching this show come on the air, why should we take this guy seriously if he's with Nimrod? And then The opponents were Danny Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. And they gave them a long walk and spooky lighting with dreary music. And the fans are sitting there going, what the fuck? Seriously, Garcia and Yuta both, they've got no look. They've got no physique. They've got no aura. They've got no charisma. They've been shoved down everybody's throat and overexposed on this program. So fans are sitting there like, what the fuck? And again, it looks like the children are at recess. A trick or treat tornado tag team match. No tags, no rules. The rule was the pin or submission has to happen in the ring. Otherwise, just here they go. The kids are at recess. And the visual of it is ridiculous. I think Pockets is the biggest fucking guy of the bunch here. So at least they kept it to 11 minutes. But Darby got the Scorpion on Wheeler useless, and he tapped out.
What do you think of the Scorpion Deathlock being Darby's new finisher?
Well, it works because I don't mind that because it ties into Sting, and at least that's telling some type of coherent story through the thing. But again, I don't even mind. That's what Yuta and Garcia ought to be there for at this point, is put over top baby faces. But you mean to tell me you can't get a more serious partner for a guy that you're pushing to Darby's level than the unfunny joke? And Tony still has not realized after 6 years now that what the fuck? If this guy was going to be anything, he would have been something, and he's never been anything except a curiosity. So, yeah. But I know what you're saying, Brian. What we need to discover who the number one contenders for the tag team title is. Isn't that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying to yourself?
Naturally.
Well, naturally, then we're going to find out with a four-way. It gets better later on in the program when you find out, folks, what else they did. But now it's time for a four-way tag team match to determine the number one contender for the tag team title that I assume then will be defended at Full Gear, which is their next pay-per-view in a few weeks. And boy, they brought in teams from all over the world, Brian. The Hardley Boys, FTR, Kevin Knight and Hong Kong Phooey, and Jungle Jackoff and Dino Douche. The same four fucking teams. Can anybody do the math, by the way, out there? We got nuclear astrophysicists in the audience out there. What percentage of AEW television matches are actual, like, regular matches, 1 against 1 or 2 against 2? And what is the percentage of some type of multiple man, 3-way, 4-way, battle royal, gauntlet, scramble, whatever the fuck they call them? Do you think it's 70-30 for the multimans?
It may be. There sure are a lot of them.
So, 4 teams here, the 3 contingents of children, including the patient zeros of trampoline wrestling. And there's FTR. They look like 2 truck drivers at a casting call for a Blue Boy magazine shoot. And they're going to do this for a long time. They open the match. Dax backs old Hong Kong Phooey up into the ropes and hit him with 4 chops and 8 punches in 8 seconds. And I swear to God, Spitball didn't go to a knee. He came off the ropes on offense. He then hit Dax with 19 kicks. And Dax was just leaning up against the ropes, and he didn't go down. And then he just kind of slumped on the middle rope. The toughest guy in the Lollipop Guild cannot knock a motherfucker down with 19 kicks, and Dax couldn't put this guy to a knee with 8 punches and 4 chops. So the break spot, I wrote this one down. I was trying to fast forward through as much of this as possible. Dax is going to superplex Kevin Knight off the top turnbuckle onto the floor, onto the covey of quail that Jim Ross phrased it a few years ago. And they got under Dax just fine. Since he was taking a flat back bump off the top rope, I'm glad they did. But he suplexed, Kevin Knight went past him. And he over-rotated, and it bent his left leg underneath him, and he sold it. And it obviously didn't injure him badly because he got back in the match later on after a while. But it should have broke his leg. Either he's just flexible or he didn't land with just enough weight. But when they came back, they bore shit. The Cucamonga kids like to play with their friends. The fans like the lizard, but they won't feature him because he's always with the children. Perry, I think even the AEW fans are like, fuck, we don't care anymore. And they did the alley-oop stuff they always do. And then finally FTR beat Knight with the Shatter Machine, about 15 minutes bell to bell. So now they get the title match with, what is their team name? Bro Dildo.
Bro Dito.
There you go. I mean, did anything about this stand out? Because it's the same shit they all always do and more of it.
You know, it's one of these matches. I never knew what the name was. I saw a clip because a lot of the listeners saw this and were so offended they had to send it over endlessly. Where I guess Brian Alvarez declared that the Young Bucks are the greatest tag team of all time. And he was referring to like this kind of match. He called it the party match.
Party match.
He said it a few times. So I'm like, is that what they consider it? Like, that's their style. We do the party match where the referee's there, but it's not like he's doing anything. And lots of people get ready to have people land on them and stupid things happen. And everyone waits for their turn to do something.
Shouldn't they have a big bowl of dip in there if it's a party match?
Well, I think we've seen all this, but some people still really seem to be into it.
As I will say something after I just crucified the WWE earlier for being boring as goddamn the growth of pubic hair. They at least don't do so much that the guys are always trying to kill each other and still nobody remembers what the fuck happened. It's just they hardly do anything instead of so mind-numbingly much. So then the Don Phallus family, Brian, is numerous, and they had to have a summit. And they had to all come out. Well, I say all. They had to all come out except whoever's injured. And I don't even know if there's any others that they didn't have besides that. But there was already, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there was Lance Archer, there was Kyle Felcher, there was Josh Alexander, there was Rocky Romero, there's Mark Davis, Oblada, the 2 masked guys that I had no idea. And then they said that it was Chichia and Clone. And they made a big deal that Take a Shit wasn't there because of travel difficulties. And who else is hurt? There's a couple more that's in it that's hurt.
Trent Beretta.
What? I didn't know he was in it.
Yeah, I think he joined when Rocky Romero joined.
What the fuck happened to him? A goddamn brain transplant? We haven't seen him in ages. Not that I'm complaining. But anyway, they all sit down and it's all the group of miscellaneous heels. And we've mentioned all the problems with this organization and wondered why Don doesn't actually manage anybody. And then they gave Don a painting of all of them, which was very homoerotic in nature. And then they had several of the members speak, like Rocky is the one that presented the painting. And then Josh Alexander pitched to the screen for a highlight video, which had great highlights about how dominant the Don Fallis family is, and no mention of any detail about why the fuck is there 15 of you and nobody ever fucking actually gets managed by this guy? And he can't be bothered to go to ringside for your matches. He just sits on commentary. And he's always making matches where guys in his own group have to fight each other or can't get along. So then Kyle Felcher squeaked, and the fans chanted asshole at him because he's got a little heat. But he started reading the oath that they all had to take before they joined the family. And it was getting into we must put Don before all else, and we agree to save any member of the family from any danger at peril to ourselves. And then out all of a sudden to music came Take a Shit, who was there after all, didn't have travel difficulties. And he came out with, what belt is that, Brian?
The IWGP Championship.
Okay, he's got the IWGP title, and Oblada has the unified title, and Kyle has a belt. And they all come out, and they've all got a belt, and the same thing. Take and Okada stare at each other. And Don tries to get Take to take it and say, you got to settle down. And it was long and boring and slow, where Don's like, I make the decisions in the family. I need you to shake his hand. And the fans were getting into it. They don't want to see him shake his hand. They could turn Take babyface fairly easily here if they capitalize on it. But then at the same time, I was about to say that he can't fucking talk or do a promo, but none of the other baby faces can anyway, so that wouldn't hurt him. But Don's like, it's for about the honor. It's for me. Do it for me. And then Take puts his hand out and Okada gives him the finger. So he kind of, again, shit in his face, because then Take can't, he's not supposed to hit him. The others get in between them, and Don announces, I'm going to make you work together. You're going to team up on Collision Saturday. And I think when he got that finger, if fucking Take it had turned around and slapped the shit out of him, he'd have showed he had something. Then they could have got in between. And as far as if they're going to do an angle where they team up and then break up, make up to break up, well, then don't do it on Collision. Then nobody's going to see on Saturday against the World Series game and Saturday night's main event. Otherwise than that, it was a wonderful segment, Brian. I rest my case. What do you think?
It's the World Series Saturday night's main event, and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein on Svengoolie. It's a really tough night.
Yes. A lot of competition.
I don't know. They've been doing this for a while. It used to be, obviously, when Punk was there, and then for even a while after it, it was almost like Collision was its own universe. But now there's so many things that it's like, oh, they're actually doing an angle that leads to the show I don't watch on Saturday. They don't do things that, like, build up the next Dynamite. It's to build the show that no one is tuned. Like, you're not going to get more people to tune into that show.
Because have you read what they're presenting on the rest of that show lately? I mean, it's fringe names at best for this company.
I had not seen the names, but I'll take you at your word.
I'm just saying, I read the recap of either last week's or the week beforehand. I'm like, what the fuck? It's just, they got no mojo going. But the eventual breakup between Take a Shit and Okada will, I'm sure, lead to the dream match that all the AEW fans that are already watching and absolutely nobody else wants to see when they break up and fight each other because, I mean, even for his countrymen, I don't have faith in Okada to try to work in any way hard to get this guy over, despite the fact he's being paid millions. He's going to lazy through it and lounge around like he always does.
He's like the wrestling embodiment of Triple H's booking.
And just get by with it.
And then,
just kind of, yeah.
Good last 30 seconds.
Well, and sometimes that doesn't come off. I'm telling, I think, to be honest, a lot of the members of the Don Fallis family should have something to fall back on because they're being misrepresented. Nothing worse than a crummy accountant or an evil manager or agent, somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, draining your money, not getting you the representation you deserve. And then there you are, just cast aside like a crumpled Kleenex on the peep show booth floor of life, Brian, with no skills to back you up. Wait a minute now. That's Harpo Marx, not the sound of money being made. You know what you need.
Oh, wait a minute. I know.
See, you had the wrong button. That's the sound of, what do I do now? In a panic because you're broke. And then cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's the sound of making money. Well, you can't make too much. Now you're making way too much money. If you get 4 cha-chings, the IRS is going to investigate you. Ladies and gentlemen, you can turn your dreams into reality and money by teaming up with our friends at Shopify. If you've just been, as I said, lingering in obscurity as a member of the Don Fallis family and you don't have anything to back yourself up in the world, you need somebody to take your dreams and turn them into reality, a website and products and ready to go merchandise and product descriptions and product images and discount codes and email and social media campaigns. Shopify, okay, they could sell ice to an Eskimo. They could sell pussy on a troop train. I guess that wouldn't be too hard.
Again, these may not be the best examples for our fine friends, the good, classy people who do their job well at Shopify.
I understand you have to be over 21 to be able to sell pussy on the internet, courtesy of anything to do with Shopify. That's why the purple pay button.
No, I don't think that has anything to do with Shopify. And again, Shopify is someone you could trust just like we do with our online store, ArcadianVanguard.com. Get your drive-through t-shirts today. We trust them. You can too.
Because anybody that presses that purple shop pay button means business. They're going to send you money, and Shopify will gather it all up in a bushel basket and dump it over your head. So you'll be swimming in it.
It's not exactly how it works, but
all of our commercials end up with people swimming in money. That's because we have people that want to get ahead in the world. We got astrophysicists. Hey, what was the astrophysicist's name? David?
David. Dr. David.
If you want to start your own astrophysicist business where people bring astros in to get them physicists, then you get it. You get a virtual storefront here with Shopify, a commerce platform behind millions of businesses. I bet they don't have too many astrophysicists selling astrophysicist things. And yet you can make a fortune right now. Go to shopify.com/JCE and you can sign up for a $1 a month trial period, David. So for that $1, they'll build you a website advertising your astrophysicistness to all the people that are in need of physicisting their astros. Shopify.com/JCE. It's only going to cost you $1 a month to be an astrophysicist in business for yourself. Not having to worry about working for the planetarium or NASA or the Russians or the little duchy of fucking Fenwick. You can work for
You
yourself and
work
build
for
your own
yourself.
goddamn atomic bombs.
Well, you can work for yourself and not do that. You can work for yourself and study and work hard and create
And then
a great product.
on Shopify, they can press the purple pay button to pay you not to set your nuclear missiles off over major metropolitan areas of the world.
Again, we were at the end. I don't know how we had to drag ourselves back to nuclear annihilation. I can't speak, but I can notice a good deal, and that is this deal for Shopify. Jim, one more time, with a soothing tone, what is that promo code?
Shopify.com/JCE.
That's right. I remind you, we use Shopify ourselves, so we like them. You can too. This is Jim's show.
Well, before we go back to AEW, just for the hell of it, because we're coming up on that point, what is going on at the Arcadian Vanguard Network this week?
Oh, now? What's going
Might as well.
on? There's great programming as always. Go to, I wasn't prepared. Of course, on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard, and on Twitter, @Superpodcast. Want to be mentioned of the wrestling news? Each and every day, get your wrestling news for free. TheWrestlingNews.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast for the morning wrestling newscast. Stick to wrestling with John McAdam, McAdamPod.com. And of course, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, SUAWPod.com. Check out both shows where you find your favorite podcast. Brian Solomon has just had on the family of Gorilla Monsoon. So if you ever wanted to hear his late wife, what she had to say, if you ever wanted to hear his daughter, these interviews have been on Shut Up and Wrestle. You should definitely check them out, especially everyone who's bought the new book.
And we should mention she did not do the interview posthumously. These were interviews conducted for the book that is now out and on sale.
The new book coming out, which is The Seance of Gorilla Monsoon, starring Brian Solomon. No, listen to the show, SUAWPod.com. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Go through the archive, 605pod.com, The Mothership.
I realized last week I forgot to ask you that question, so I want to make up for it, get it in. Back to AEW, a rematch was up next between Kyle O'Reilly and Dick the Boozer. Again. This would have been a great thing to do with O'Reilly when he first came in about 3 fucking years ago, wouldn't it?
This is the best thing they've done with Kyle O'Reilly in a long time. I watched the match thinking they have to do something because it stands out that Moxley couldn't beat him, that Moxley had to hit the referee. It wasn't just Moxley cheating. It was Moxley not being able to get away from Kyle O'Reilly. This has been the best thing he's done in AEW by far, even though the matches may not necessarily be the best at times.
And obviously you can only get what you can only get with Moxley. Right. But the point is, yes, somebody came up with the idea for a little TV program. Imagine that, where Kyle O'Reilly faces Moxley, and Moxley, as you said, has to punch the referee to get disqualified because he can't get away from the ankle lock, even though, as somebody mentioned, as Moxley was staggering to his feet to punch the referee, he grabbed the top rope to steady himself. So he technically could have got a break, but he wasn't that quick. He doesn't think that quick. But nevertheless, they bring it back, and this time they go about 10 minutes. Wasn't burdensome. And O'Reilly gets the front face lock on him, on the guillotine, as they call it, on the floor, and had him scissored around his waist with his legs. And Moxley couldn't get away, and Aubrey Ed counted them both out. So again, Moxley, this is if you'd brought Kyle O'Reilly in, you give him a win on television, maybe 2 wins on television over 3 or 4 weeks, and have him say something to people so they know what his voice sounds like. And then you put him in a little program with a guy that you featured in the main event so the fans know where to take him as a main event guy also. And that's where you do this. Now it's better than things they could be doing, but it's an example of O'Reilly has the talent to do this, but they have wasted it over the last 3 years with the goofiness and him being a part of the goofy group with the goofy angle and the whole thing with Cole and the Devils, MJF, and all the other stuff, you get the people used to, okay, it's Kyle O'Reilly, him and Roddy, the rest of those guys, they're nothing happening. And then you do this. And then he's like, it has to, just because you can put together all of the puzzle pieces for a certain part of the puzzle doesn't mean that the whole picture is a masterpiece. And nevertheless, and then Marina Schaefer knocked Aubrey Ed out, so Claudio came in and leveled Kyle, and then Roderick Strong came in, and then Wheeler came in, and Garcia came in, and Darby came in, and Briscoe came in, and it was same as always. And then the heels bail out and wait for the baby faces to berate them on the microphone, and Darby got the mic good, and it was short and sweet. And he made a little point, and then Briscoe took the microphone and beat around the bush a bit. And then he was trying, or supposed to, set up for Pockets, of all people, to make the challenge for Blood and Guts at the pay-per-view. He gives the microphone to Pockets, and he said, well, Blood and Guts. He ruined the pay-per-view main event challenge. Why would they let this dipshit speak? It just shit all over the whole thing. However, let's remember the whole thing is now they've got a Blood and Guts match on pay-per-view with the Boar Horsemen against Mark Briscoe, Darby Allin, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly, apparently, right? And Pockets. So now they're doing underneath preliminary Blood and Guts matches.
I think Tony sees the Death Riders and Orange Cassidy as not being underneath preliminary guys. I think you could definitely argue in terms of who's a star in AEW, Moxley, Darby. You know, Briscoe, again, you want to talk about people, if they had only done this in the beginning when they came in, but they're setting up Blood and Guts. The interesting thing is, when is Blood and Guts?
I think that November 22nd is the date of their pay-per-view, if I believe.
And so that's November.
Memory serves.
And then November 29th is WWE Survivor Series War Games. So what do you think that says?
It says that we're going to see a bunch of the same old shit. And yes, I agree. The way he's been used, Moxley is the worst wrestler in the world, but the way he's been used, he's a main event guy.
Right. Right.
And Darby is a main event guy. Briscoe was on that precipice where he could or couldn't. The people still like him. But you got Wheeler useless. You got Garcia. You've got Roddy, bless him. Again, great worker, presented like a dipshit. Claudio. What? And the mascot. So then they went to a commercial break.
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're about to get 3 War Games matches in a week because it's going to be men's and women's at the WWE Survivor Series.
Well, no.
And if they only
There's going to be 4. There's going to be 4.
They're doing a women's one too? Okay, great.
I was going to mention that they're doing, yes, this company, as bad as it is when the WWE does a men's and women's War Games and takes all the fucking steam out of the real men's War Games, that is the real one, at least they've got some women that are not going to fall on their face to embarrass themselves. I understand they're going to do a women's Blood and Guts match. So in the space of 7 days, we're going to see.
Actually, I'm wrong about 7 days because the AEW one is on the 12th in Greensboro.
November 12th?
November 12th in Greensboro.
I thought that was the 22nd.
No, it's not going to be a weekend. It's going to be, apparently it's going to be on Dynamite.
Oh, Jesus H. Christ. So it's not going to be on a pay-per-view. They're just going to do women's Blood and Guts on TV.
Yes.
What the fuck? The point is, it's the same old shit. Women's blood and guts, men's blood and guts, women's war games, men's war games. We're going to get to see the WWE version and the fucking great value generic version of all of these matches over a 2-week period. Oh, joy, oh, bliss.
It's like when the NWA came to Nassau Coliseum with the Bunkhouse Stampede and the WWF all of a sudden had the Bunkhouse Brawl at the Nassau Coliseum, won by Jim Duggan.
Well, at least he knew his way around a bunkhouse. All right, so they came back from a commercial break, and there was Mercedes Moon and Chris Statlander already in the back fighting, and they fought out into the arena and into the ring. And then Athena attacked Statlander, and they beat Statlander up until Willow ran out and the heels ran off. And there's more of that particular story. Athena has now become Mercedes Moon's partner in crime. And then the women's tag team championship tournament match was up with Julia Hart and Blue Sky against Jamie Hayter and the Queen. What happened, Brian?
Action-packed wrestling spectacular. And one tries to remember the finish. I believe that it was the team with Tekla. But then I'm thinking, did the other team win? I don't remember what the result was.
Well, good, because nobody gives a shit. There's 2 more belts that are going to go to 2 more interchangeable people.
Damn, I can't remember who won the fucking match. Who moved on in the tournament? It's a big tournament. It's big.
It's huge. You know what the big next match was? Brian, I know you're gonna find this hard to believe that they would give something away like this on free television, the magnitude of this. A 4-way match to determine the number 1 contender for the person who gets the title shot at the pay-per-view. They just did this with the tag teams an hour previously. And the last match is the same thing, only with the singles instead of the tags. Samoa Joe and Ricochet and Bobby Lashley and Hook. Bless the young man. I think his father's just a wonderful fellow. But everybody, even these fans, knew he didn't belong in the fucking deal, and they put him in it so Joe could choke somebody out. And because of the connection that they've had previously when Hook was one of the ops. But again, is Tony just lost? Is he just stuck? Is he, 4-way? Has he just thrown his hands up? The same goddamn thing, the same show. And then they went 11 minutes, just long enough to go into the overrun. And 1 minute into the overrun, Joe was choking Hook out because they had some bullshit angle to do. They protected Lashley as well as they could, but he was chasing Ricochet off, who had taken a cheap shot on him or whatever. But Jesus Christ, to pick, why would you, in what logical world would Tony even pick these 4 guys to be the number 1 contender when he's got 18 people that are already holding singles belts and these ain't none of them? It's just meaningless. So comments on the match before we talk about the angle, if any.
No, I mean, again, it's not even just the 2 on this show. I'm sick of the multi-man matches, and it always seems like it's just, you talk about lazy booking being the no DQ, no time limit matches. This is the laziest thing in wrestling. We'll have a 3-way match. We'll have a 4-way match. I mean, it's the laziest thing in wrestling. It was something unnecessary until 1993.
Hey, watch out now. It's not my fault. I didn't know. I was like, what was Oppenheimer? All the people that worked on the fucking nuclear fission and shit. We didn't know all this information would be used for evil. So anyway, Joe and Hobbs and Shapoopy are in the ring. Tony Schiavone has been dressed as the Phantom of the Opera like he did on a Halloween Havoc for WCW 30 fucking years ago. That only, again, the smallest subset of people remember. And they've had people in costumes in the back of the building through these little backstage vignettes. So Tony says, okay, well, now we've got our challenger. So now we're going to bring in our Halloween crew with the contract for the title match. What this, then you could immediately see something was coming from a mile away, because here comes the giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and a giant cow and a giant chicken and a giant bull and others in costume into the ring. And again, Adam Page was the Stay Puft Marshmallow fellow at one of the Halloween shows they did a couple of years ago and surprised somebody, whoever the fuck. So when they all get in the ring, Joe tells Hobbs and Shapoopy, beat all them guys up in the costumes. And they do, and they grab the Marshmallow Man and they pull his head off, and it's some nobody. So then Joe signs the contract, and then they stand there, and you could tell they're trying to get everybody in the right place. And Joe gets the microphone and cuts a promo on Adam Page, who's not there. But he's talking about what he's going to do to Page. But they're all standing awkwardly, and there's some awkward waiting. And then from the floor, because Tony Schiavone's got out of the ring, from the floor, they get a shot from behind the Phantom. And you hear Tony's voice, let's propose now a toast. To, like it's what Schiavone always does, toast Samoa Joe.
That's ever happened ever. I toast the wrestlers.
And yet, let's have a toast now that he signed the contract after he beat up our people in costume. And they hand in bottles of champagne where the heels now are going to toast each other. And the Phantom gets in the ring now and has the microphone in front of his face, and Tony's voice is playing, and he repeats the same goddamn message. But you can tell that the jaw movement from the fucking guy in the ring as dressed as the Phantom is not matching this. And to be honest, if nobody was watching, if you weren't paying any attention at all, you wouldn't really know what was up. But because it was so glaringly obvious, when they say, let's bring out the Halloween crew, you knew something was going to happen. So they switched. Schiavone switched on the floor with Adam Page, who was dressed with a wig and a fucking fake beard, as the Phantom of the Opera instead of Schiavone, and he breaks a bottle over Joe's head. But then to show you how goddamn lost they are, how fucking lost they are, Adam Page breaks a champagne bottle over Samoa Joe's head, and Joe goes down. And then Page jumps out on the apron, and Joe has to stand up so Page can hit him with a buckshot lariat. And then he gets on top of him and hits him with 16 fake fucking punches that never came near and were in no way convincing. He broke a bottle over the guy's head. Break the bottle. The guy's laying there immobile. Take your fucking wig and mask off and get your pop. You fucking idiot. You complete moron. You imbecile. So it takes you breaking a bottle over a guy's head. Then he gets up, you hit him with your finish, and then you got to get on him and punch him 16 times in a way that looks like a pussy girl because you're weak. I don't know why else. What the fuck? So they can't even do an angle without doing too much and making the baby face look like a moron. But it was a cute idea. And and the people popped in the building. And there's ways they could have not telegraphed it that would have been better, but it wasn't bad. But then the payoff of the whole thing is the Phantom breaks a bottle over the guy's head, and that's forgotten 5 seconds later when they go to the wrestling move, followed by the weak shit. So you forgot about the bottle.
Yeah, I had forgotten about the bottle. I remember the surprise, not the bottle. And actually,
Yeah.
it was a surprise to me because I wasn't paying enough attention to the Shivani character. I was waiting for something to happen because it was obviously telegraphed something would happen, but I wasn't paying attention to Adam Page or Shivani at all. So
what called my attention to Shivani also was when I realized that you were hearing his voice and him making this statement, but they were trying as best as they could not to show him until he got in the ring. And then the jaw was not matching the voiceover, which was, he was saying the same thing again anyway. I'm like, why? What? Then I realized it's not him.
So should Samoa Joe be mad at Shivani for obviously participating in this and lending his voice?
Yes, I think he ought to Coquina clutch Shivani to fucking Kingdom Come. He had to be in on it.
Or maybe he's stupid, because who would fall for Shivani saying, "And now a toast"? When has that ever happened? Never.
Well, but it's the same point. You had Shivani and Paige. They obviously had to collaborate and cross-dressing with each other. So I think he's guilty. So anyway, Adam Page is going to wrestle Samoa Joe again on the pay-per-view after he just beat him.
But I guess just to wrap this up, the specific point when it comes to a weapon that's not typically used that should be devastating, that should be the out. Not that and then more stuff that's not needed.
And it's, I know the old saying is that, well, you're following a shooting with a stabbing, and there's, there's a moral to that story. But when you think about this, yes, the break of the bottle over a guy's head, that'll do some damage. Okay, the buckshot, that'll hurt a guy too, but the guy that you just broke the bottle over his head has to stand up for you to do that. So wasn't no reason to do it, except it's fancy and you wanted to do it. And then when you get on top of a guy and hit him 16 times, and they all look like shit, and his face is not caved in, then you've just started out running over a guy with a fucking car, and now you ended up farting on him while you're going in the wrong direction. They've been going in the wrong direction for quite a while, though. Speaking of direction, before we get out of here, the direction of the ratings has not been promising. And if anybody out there missed it when we went over it on shows a couple weeks ago, and the clips are on YouTube, where our YouTube channel, if you want to go back and refresh yourself, but the Nielsen people have switched to another methodology of gathering the ratings. And since then, a lot of the pro sports and football have shown kind of increases. And most of the other programs were a small variation either way. And wrestling has gotten slammed and has been down 15%, 20%, whatever, from the old methodology just a few weeks ago. And also they're being more, Brian, is it stingy or proprietary with their information? We don't even get the quarter hours anymore. They just, fuck that. Again, nobody's going to know about that. Who was threatened?
Oh, yeah. No, this is an interesting thing, and we'll see going forward what happens here. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics posted something for subscribers on their Patreon. Note for readers: I don't expect to publish quarter-hour TV ratings for the foreseeable future. Our sourcing that had provided data appears to have been asked to stop sharing it, likely as a result of pressure connected to Nielsen. Last Friday, I received an email from Nielsen in response to an earlier media inquiry about HBO Max viewership, which Warner Bros. Discovery had by that time answered. The message copied several members of Nielsen's legal and policy team. The media relations representative stated only that the team had some questions, and that's in quote, about the data I've reported. Nielsen hasn't followed up, and I haven't received any threat or warning. Based on the tone and timing, I suspect the email was meant mainly to signal concern. And then he explains how what they're doing is transformative, it's fair use under the First Amendment, and he doesn't think there should be any problem. But, and this is a key phrase here probably, I also recognize Nielsen's clients may have contractual obligations with Nielsen. The timing, especially around Nielsen's recent rollout of its big data plus panel methodology, suggests that Nielsen's sensitivity about how their data is perceived, particularly as the Media Rating Council is reportedly reconsidering whether to accredit the new methodology after initially granting accreditation. So that seems to have stopped the quarter-hour ratings not just for WrestleNomics, but everywhere. We have not seen any quarter hours from any source.
Well, and that's, again, it ain't a good long-term thing for wrestling, for any wrestling company or the wrestling business in general, if they continue to use these ratings in this fashion, and wrestling is the one that got the drubbing of all of the other programming on the world of the television and streaming today. So while they're using it, this is what the advertisers and the networks are going to go by, because they're not going to have anything else. And with that being said, we had been talking about Dynamite, looking kind of pitiful when it was down in the 600,000s. And then they got into the 500,000s, and every once in a while would bust back over 6 with the old methods. And we were like, can the network be happy with this? And there's all these rumors that more people are going to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, including maybe Netflix now. They might buy it. But now they're down in the 4s. And how low can you go? How much more can they tolerate? October 22nd, October 29th, Brian, do you have those numbers? Because I meant to have them. I don't have them.
Yeah, I have pulled up the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th.
Well, what were all those numbers?
Dynamite on Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, 8 to 10 p.m. What was that? Hold on, I'm actually going to tell you what the lineup was, or at least what the main thing was, because I got my notes here, as well as this. So this would have been 2 weeks ago. Jim, I got my notes here. October 15th was Dynamite with, let's see, you had Tony Storm and Statlander's sit-down interview and then Brawl, followed by the Gates of Agony versus the Hurt Syndicate. Darby Allin and Moxley's cinematic jail sit-down. Claudio versus Roddy. Callis birthday party at a restaurant. Omega Jurassic Express versus Callis family. Ops match. And then Collision built into the show. They did 534,000 viewers from 8 to 10 p.m. that night.
Now, was that the first week of the new method or the last week of the old method? I think that was first week of the new method, wasn't it?
Oh, no. The new method had been in place for a little while. I believe it started September 26th.
Good Lord, how time is flying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, and do you have, by the way, what did Dynamite do on September 19th?
I would need a second to pull that up.
September 19th
24th.
a Friday. It would have been September 24th. That would have been the old or the new method.
September 24th is 636,000 viewers. I think that may have been the last week with the old method.
Okay, that's what I'm driving at. September 24th was 636. That's the old method. The new method kicked in. Well, what was the next 2 weeks before October 15th?
Hold on. Well, Jim, I have here Wednesday, October 1st, Dynamite, 8 to 10:30 p.m. 465,000 viewers. This was big data plus panel methodology.
Okay, and what about October 8th?
October 8th Or actually, October 7th. They air Tuesday.
Titty Tuesday.
Title Tuesday, 8 to 10 p.m., Tuesday, October 7th, 321,000 viewers.
Okay, that's an off night, but nevertheless. So we've got September 24th, the last week of the old method, 636. Then the following Wednesday, 465. Following Tuesday, take that out of the equation. Off night, 321. They come back on October 15th, 534, over 100,000 lower than the big one in September. What was October 22nd?
October 22nd Dynamite was San Antonio, Ops versus Hurt Syndicate, Darby promo, women's 4-team tag match, Mercedes Moné cake celebration, Moxley versus O'Reilly part 1, and Fletcher and Callis promo, and that's about that. Bandito main event with Briscoe, Bandito versus Okada main event, excuse me. 8 to 10 p.m., 477,000 viewers.
Okay. And the 29th, the show that we just talked about, those numbers have come in. What did they do there?
The most recent AEW Dynamite, October 29, 2025. This is reported by WrestleNomics. 8 to 10:08 p.m., 459,000 viewers. Not counting Max.
So in the 4 Wednesday nights since the new method, they've gone from the last week of the old method, 636, to 465, 534, 477, and 459. Now, same thing's happening to the WWE. They've lost a good 10, 15, 20% of the audiences, last time I checked, that were being measured under the new method, but they start with bigger numbers. And as well, they're more diversified in that there's some programs on streaming and some programs on cable and some programs on broadcast. But this can't be in any way good for AEW's interactions with WBD, potential sale or not coming up. They just keep getting lower.
Again, it's important to note that AEW, although getting hundreds of millions overall over several years for media rights, is still a fairly cheap program for TBS, but that doesn't always save something.
You get what you pay for.
But I don't know if it's unfair to wrestling or more realistic to wrestling, the new ratings methodology, because also it's happening in the middle of a downturn. If not business-wise for everyone, just general vibes-wise. AEW does not feel hot. WWE feels hot and you don't understand why, because you don't feel it. It looks hot, I guess is maybe a better way to say it. But right now I think we're in a downturn. So that's the other thing that, whether it's AEW or WWE, you have to account with the ratings.
Well, you know what you have to account with on this program, Brian, don't you?
What's that?
Well, what that is no matter when we finish one, there's always going to be another one coming up soon. And that's the case for this one. We have finished one, but there'll be another one coming up soon. We're going to talk about, I guess, Saturday night's main event and Monday night's Raw and whatever else happens during that time period. The World Series, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Prince Andrew. Oh, well,
Andrew.
Just Andrew, sorry.
I'll have you know he's Andrew Mountbatten Smithington. But we're going to talk about all those things on the drive-thru because this episode of The Experience has officially expired. Do you have any closing thoughts?
You're going to find out he's related to the Battens.
Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Old Mountbatten.
we have traced the royal family of Windsor all the way back to West Virginia and the Batten family.
That's where they live, Mountbatten.
All right, we ain't going to top that. Folks from Mountbatten, West Virginia and Louisville, Kentucky and the wilds of New Jersey, this has been the Jim Cornette Experience. Join us in a few more days on the drive-thru. Until then, thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.